the Edmonton zone. And he fired it up too high and put it into the crowd. And after just 6 seconds, we have a stoppage of the faceoff out in the center ice area.
Well, as you watch the first few shifts of tonight's game, I think you'll be able to tell at least whether or not the Edmonton Oilers have got that zip back. Not much question that Dave Poulin is going to try and counteract that intensity by the Oilers, but they have to skate and do what they do best.
Puck is shot in. Brad Marsh back for Philadelphia. Trying to clear it on the boards. Brian Propp had it. Vogelin pinches in to hold it in. And Vogelin trying to force Marsh in against the boards, does, and forces the faceoff in the Philadelphia zone. You know, these Flyers, Gary, with the newcomers, Zazel, or Zezel, I should say, and Smith and so on down the line, 5 rookies in their lineup. It's kind of like, who are these guys in the white jerseys with the orange and black trim? People are starting to find out.
Well, they really are, and they have been the no-name Flyers for a big part of this year, even though this team did end up with the best record overall in the NHL standings after 80 games. So they have had a tremendous season and aren't satisfied with it yet, though.
Here's Tim Kerr against Mark Messier in a face-off, won by Messier. Vogelin at the point. His pass intercepted by Dave Poulin. Poulin, number 20, trying to get through the defense. Vogelin and Lowe took him out, and Vogelin has the puck to Mark Messier. Messier firing it in. Philadelphia's Marsh back to get it. Lindbergh very wisely let that puck go, but Marsh touched it, and it's icing against Edmonton.
Well, speaking of Brad Marsh, I think you'll see him out on the ice pretty much every single time Mark Messier is tonight. Coach Mike Keenan wants to control Messier's speed as well as his strength, and more so his strength than anything else. Brad Marsh, as we mentioned many times, is not fast-footed, but yet he can take the body and he can take it well. Marsh will no doubt see a lot of ice time because Glenn Sather is going to have to utilize his 2 top lines to get that speed back into their game.
Mike Keenan wants Marsh out there against Messier, and he wants the more mobile defenseman, Howe and Crossman, out there when he can against Gretzky and Curry. Here's Paul Coffey for Edmonton. Number 7, Coffey. Moving it in to Glenn Anderson, and there's Marsh with an excellent poke check. Now Messier knocks Marsh down. Hospodar comes over to get the puck and is able to clear it, and here's Tim Kerr to Brian Propp. Pass was behind him. Propp carries in anyway. Now it's Glenn Anderson for Edmonton, getting it to Charlie Huddy. He cleared it right onto Ron Sutter's stick. Held in by Philadelphia, and Fuhr has to come out of the net and clear it to Glenn Anderson. Anderson with a pass to Mike Krushelnyski. Hospodar knocks that down, and then he and Krushelnyski collide heavily. Don Jackson for Edmonton is there to clear it. The Oilers now on the attack. Here's Gary Curry, number 17. Trying to send it to Gretzky, but Mark Howe is there, flipping it on the boards. And here's Peekinen, the newcomer, getting help from Gretzky. Philadelphia break it up and are able to clear the zone. Jackson takes a hit, dropping it back to Gregg. Now to Gary Curry, who fires it in. And the Flyers' Howe going back to pick it up. Curry knocks it down, but Ron Sutter carries out. Lead pass to Derek Smith, number 24. He's ridden out in the corner by Gregg and then hammered down by Jackson on a very tough check. Now Smith gets up again, though, centered it. Flyers cleared away. Now it's Curry trying to get it ahead for Peekinen, number 14. Here's the 19-year-old rookie Peekinen. Crossman then clearing it away to Rick Pocket, and Pocket slides the puck down into the Edmonton zone.
Well, it may have been surprising when I had said at the start of the game that Peekinen will make things happen out there. For a young player getting this opportunity, I think you'll see a lot of them.
Here the Oilers, big chance by McClellan and a big save by Lindbergh as McClellan walked in on the left side. And now it's Hunter for Edmonton, number 12. Got it behind the net. Crossman comes up with it for Philadelphia. Cleared to Vogelin. Knocked down and cleared over the glass by Joe Patterson. For our local systems, we'll pause here. USA Sports.
The Philadelphia Flyers, as far as their game plan tonight was concerned, they weren't going to change anything. They want to forecheck. They said, we're going to try and forecheck the Sox right off the Edmonton Oilers tonight.
Right from the faceoff, the puck bounces over the glass and into the crowd. And we'll get a faceoff again in the Flyers zone. The Flyers right now with a forward line of Craven, Carson, and Bergen. Edmonton with their forward line of McClelland, Hunter, and Pat Hughes. Hughes, number 16, didn't play in game one, but he's in the lineup tonight. That's one of the changes that Glenn Sather has made. There's Peter Zezel, 20-year-old Flyer rookie from Scarborough, Ontario. Set a Flyer team record this year for assists by a rookie. And he had 46. Face-off is going to be outside the Philadelphia line. No score. Zezel will be tossed out of the face-off. Joe Patterson will step in to take it. Now it's Zezel, Patterson, and Sinisalo, the Flyer line. Vogelin dumping it in for Edmonton. Hughes in to get it. He missed it. Now it's centered to McClelland by Pat Hughes. Philadelphia come up with the puck, and it's cleared by Zezel all the way down the ice. The Flyers will be called for icing, and we'll get a face-off back in the Philadelphia zone.
Yesterday at practice, when the Oilers were trying to analyze as to what went wrong and what they have to do better, well, obviously the word intensity came up. They have to skate, but they mentioned also the fact they have to shoot more. Mike Keenan and his Philadelphia Flyers really took the open ice away from them. The Edmonton Oilers like to play a passing game. Well, Wayne Gretzky was the first one to say we may not be able to pass the puck as much as we'd like to do. We have to shoot, and I'm the first one that has to shoot because he did not get a shot on net, which is something rather amazing in game number one for Wayne Gretzky.
As far as scoring chances were concerned in that game, the Flyers had 17 scoring chances, and Edmonton had only 5. And that will usually tell you the outcome of the game. Here's Sinisalo getting the puck to center ice, but McClelland intercepts for Edmonton. Kevin McClelland's long shot off Brad Marsh's stick and up into the crowd here at the Spectrum.
Well, that was a pretty good example of what the Edmonton Oilers are trying to do, shoot from any place out there in the Flyers' end zone right now, but also a pretty good example of how closely the Philadelphia Flyers have been playing the Edmonton Oilers. A lot of deflected shots, and they're going to keep them away from Pelle Lindbergh by doing that.
Now the Flyers send out Poulin, Kerr, and Propp against Messier, Anderson, and Napier. Face-off won by Edmonton and jumped in. Going back to get it is Kerr, but that play was offside at the Philadelphia blue line. And this game off to a slow start. Paul Coffey, by the way, says he and the rest of the Oilers simply have to play better tonight.
Well, Coffey was mentioning about the fact of the ice, and he said that there's no excuses. Both of these teams have to play on this ice, but he said we have to adjust to it a little bit more so than the Flyers. I gave up the puck the other night, he said, on a pass to Yari Curry, and that really cost us a very important goal. He said we just have to bear down on those passes on this type of ice.
Napier and Poulin fight for it. Now Kerr firing it in. Your handles that, and here is Paul Coffey. Over to Charlie Huddy. Headmanning it to Mark Messier, who dumps it in. The Oilers race in, center it. Marsh was there to clear it. And now Hospodar out to Tim Kerr. Kerr, number 12, to the Edmonton line, but checked, and Glenn Anderson comes right back for the Oilers. He's checked by Dave Poulin. Now it's Huddy getting it to center. Messier flipping it in. Lindbergh has lost his goal stick, and so he holds on to the puck. And meanwhile, back of the play, a penalty called against Edmonton by Kerry Fraser. I think against Paul Coffey. No score here in the early going between Edmonton and...
Seeing the penalty box right now. 2 minutes for tripping was the call. He hauled down Brian Propp for the Philadelphia Flyers. 4:17 is the time.
And so Philadelphia on a power play. They scored the game's first goal the other night on a power play. That time when they had a two-man advantage. Philadelphia on the power play in the playoffs. 17 goals at 20.7 percentage. There's a long shot that Lindbergh cleared aside. Now Crossman getting it for Philadelphia. Ahead to Murray Craven, number 32. Shot to center, but Sinisalo picks it up into Peter Zezel. His shot deflects wide. Zezel centered it. Gretzky was there to clear it for Edmonton, and Crossman has to go back. Doug Crossman to Mark Howe. Over to Crossman. Rink wide, picked up by number 25, Zezel. Tried to feed it in, but it's intercepted by Gregg at the Edmonton line. And Howe has to go back for Philadelphia. Here's Crossman. To Zezel. Shot in. Fogelin is there for Edmonton, and he played it off the boards right back to center. Crossman tries for the Flyers. Couldn't get it into the zone. It comes right back to Doug Crossman. Shot it in, and Kevin Lowe fires it right back out. 55 seconds now remaining in the Edmonton penalty. Here's Lowe breaking up a play at the blue line. And now Messier in center ice to Fogelin. He's upended on a check by Prop. And going back, Philadelphia controlling it as Hospodar, or Erickson it is, to Howe. Ahead to Todd Bergen. Drop pass back. Shot is wide of the net by Brian Prop. Now Bergen behind the net centered it. Lowe is there to intercept and clear it away. And it's Erickson over to Howe. Now to Prop. In across the line to Todd Bergen, shooting one. He blasted that wide. And then play is called, and we're going to get another penalty here. Again against Edmonton. For our local system, we'll pause here. You're watching.
See Lee Fogelin, he's gone for a rest, but not to the Edmonton Oilers players bench. He's gone to the penalty box. 2 minutes for high 60. 6:03 is the time, and not a smart move on the Edmonton Oilers' part. You can remember that in the last game, game number 1, they took some bad penalties early in the game, and it cost them.
Coffey is already in there, has 14 seconds left, and now is joined by Coffey. So a two-man advantage here for 14 seconds at least, and then after that, the one-man advantage for the Flyers. One of the things, Gary, when you get the back-to-back penalties such as the Oilers have here, your penalty killers get worn out.
Well, and especially since they utilize the same ones so much of the time, as well as the guys that are playing the regular shift. You'll see Messier out there as he is now, and oftentimes Gretzky and Curry.
Here is Mark Messier. Couldn't get it out. It's centered. Big save, Pure on Brian Prop. And he stopped him once, and he stopped him twice. And Grant Pure comes up big for the Oilers.
The way that Brian Prop wound up to shoot that puck, it looked as though he were going to put that puck right straight through Grant Pure if he didn't beat him. What a wind-up. And Pure, you can see that power of the shot knocked him down, but great move by Grant Pure. He came way out to cut down that angle. Watch. He tried to clear the puck himself. It wasn't Pure's fault by any means. His winger, Messier, over there should have been able to get that puck out, but then Pure just comes charging out on Prop. Prop was a little bit upset at himself. I think he would have deked Grant Pure had he known Pure was going to come out that fast, that quick.
Well, that's Pure's usual style. As Mike Liut said the other night, sometimes he's a little bit too aggressive as a goaltender. And you'd think the Flyers would be conscious of that. But Prop wound up and let fly. Now, from the faceoff, Messier gets the puck just as Coffey comes back onto the ice. Meanwhile, play had been called, I think, because of a hand pass back in the Edmonton zone. And now the Oilers just one man short. Fogelin with 1:41 left in his penalty.
Interesting that the Flyers coaching staff were talking about the speed of the Edmonton Oilers. Not that they saw it in game number 1, but Messier always comes up in the conversation. You can talk about your Glenn Andersons, your Currys, and Gretzky's, but Messier isn't only fast, he is strong out there, and that makes it twice as difficult to defend against him.
He can skate around you or right over the top of you. Puck is shot down the ice by Edmonton. Crossman going back to get it. Crossman headmanning it to Dave Poulin, number 20. Gretzky tying him up. Poulin got it into the zone, but Coffey is there to clear it, and he cleared it up too high over the glass.
Well, Dan Kelly's favorite part of the show right now will remind you that this game is authorized under television rights granted by the National Hockey League, intended solely for the private non-commercial use of our audience. Any publication, reproduction, retransmission, or other use of the pictures, descriptions, and accounts of this game without the express written consent of the National Hockey League is strictly prohibited.
1:18 left in the Oiler penalty to Fogelin. Edmonton winning the faceoff. And number 7, Paul Coffey, firing it down into the Philadelphia zone. Crossman is back to get it. Now to Sinisalo, ahead to Mark Howe. Howe dumps it in. Coffey is there to clear it out. And the Oilers, Gretzky races down. Lindbergh saw him coming, so came out to clear it away. Crossman feeding one to Sinisalo. In across the line. Ilka Sinisalo shoots one. Up high. Now Todd Bergen tries to center. Bergen still with the puck. Bergen in front. Sinisalo took a whack at it, but it was cleared. Now Howe shot up high. Crossman into the corner for Bergen. The rookie Todd Bergen centered it, and Yari Curry pokes it away. And Miroslav Dvorak over the board gets it for Philadelphia. Has passed ahead on the wing for Bergen, who shoots it in. Tim Kerr racing in. He couldn't get it. Prop does. Brian Prop put it right through the goal crease. Here's Dvorak. Into the corner. Shot around onto the boards by Prop. And now it's Messier back for Edmonton. Fogelin is now out of the penalty box, and the Oilers go offside at the Philadelphia blue line. From the Spectrum in Philadelphia, you're watching the Stanley.
One of the most interesting places to be before a game is here on the players' workbench, where they grasp the sticks, they cut them, and make sure that they're only a half an inch in curvature. Outside the Edmonton Oilers locker room, something interesting. One of the Spectrum workers left this. It's a broom. You know what you do with a broom, don't you?
Here is Philadelphia breaking out of their own zone. Puck is shot in by number 18, Carson. Randy Gregg back to get it. Now it's Edmonton's McClellan starting out. McClellan into the center ice area. The pass coming to Willie Lindstrom. He drops it back to Krushelnyski, who's checked in the play. Now the puck winds up underneath the fallen Philadelphia defenseman Brad Marsh. And we'll get a face-off deep in the Philadelphia zone.
Well, the Edmonton Oilers were able to kill off the Philadelphia Flyers' power play rather effectively out there, and so that gives them a little bit of confidence and a little bit of new life here in this first period. Mike Krushelnyski, I think, maybe got a little bit of a message as well when Glenn Taylor decided to dress the young player, Esa Tikkanen, in tonight's game. Krushelnyski had played a little bit up front with Wayne Gretzky and Yari Curry. Hasn't really been going at the pace that he was for the first 40 games for the Edmonton Oilers this season.
From a face-off, they rule the puck was dropped unfairly, so it'll be done over again. Deep in the Philadelphia zone, 11:25 left in the first period, no score. Philadelphia winning the face-off. Marsh cleared it on the boards to Carson. He's checked now. McClellan centered just off the stick of the Edmonton player. Now comes to center and is shot back in by the Oilers, but offside. Willie Lindstrom was open in front of that net, but the pass intended for him was just out of his reach.
Well, meanwhile, Kevin McClellan had been caught down in deep, and Kevin McClellan, kind of the bad man for the Edmonton Oilers. Mike Keenan, he's done just a terrific job here behind the bench of the Philadelphia Flyers. Some interesting things that Mike Keenan does with his team. Right after a game, right here in Philadelphia the other night, they all went out for a team meal. They met for a team meal last night. He's not keeping them in a hotel. Lets them go home to sleep, but yet tries to get them together every day other than for practice.
A little bit of the togetherness factor. Here's the long shot. Caught by Lindbergh, and he held on to it. And we'll get a face-off to the right of the Philadelphia goal. People say they don't know of Mike Keenan. Where did he come from? Well, everywhere he came from, he won.
Well, he did exactly that. He replaced me when I left Peterborough Petes of the Ontario Major Junior Hockey League in Canada. He brought the team to the Memorial Cup Finals, and then he went to Rochester with the Buffalo Sabres organization and was very successful there as well, winning an American League championship, and then went back last year to coach the University of Toronto Blues in Canada and won a Canadian championship there.
Here's a quick chance by Lindstrom. Lindbergh a stick save, and now Poulin trying to carry out. He's checked. Lindstrom again for Edmonton. Lindstrom centered. Marsh is there to knock it away. Now Poulin jammed up in the corner. In comes Marsh to help up. 2 Oilers and 2 Flyers. And you know what that means. One of them is Hunter, by the way. And the sticks and the pushing and shoving takes the tone of this game right here. Now McClellan is into it with Hospodar.
I was just going to say, look for those two to kind of go at it a few times tonight. Ed Hospodar laid out a pretty good check earlier in this first period against Kevin McClellan. I don't think Kevin McClellan liked it too much.
For our local systems, we'll pause here. USA Sports is bringing you the Stanley Cup.
Well, it was Brad Marsh and Dave Hunter that really got things started in the corner. Let's see how it did start. There you can see Hunter came in, and he had his elbows up, and Marsh didn't take too kindly to that. So Marsh just continued to do some pushing and shoving, and as a result, Hunter and Marsh both go off. 2 minutes for roughing. 9:22 is the time.
So each team a man short. Here's Gretzky against Ron Sutter. That's the Philadelphia game plan, to keep Ron Sutter out against the great number 99. Sutter wins this faceoff, and Mark Howe controlling it for Philadelphia. Over to Duck Crossman. Flipping one to center. It comes to the Edmonton line. Charlie Huddy over to Coffey. Winding it back over to Huddy. Huddy being checked from behind by Ron Sutter. Now Mark Howe gets the puck. Actually, he didn't get it. It was still held there by Sutter and by Charlie Huddy.
Well, as you look at Ron Sutter leaving along the boards, he just did a tremendous job the other night on Wayne Gretzky, as you no doubt could see during the course of the game. And Ron Sutter, I love his attitude. He told Al Troutwig after the game that it really didn't mean a great deal to him that he scored the winning goal, and it didn't mean a great deal that he kept Wayne Gretzky scoreless, in fact shotless during the course of that game. What meant the most to him was the fact that the Philadelphia Flyers won the game, and that's just the type of attitude that Ron Sutter has, as well as all the Philadelphia Flyers. They really play well together as a team.
What Sutter did to Gretzky the other night, he did to the Islander player Trottier in one round of the playoffs, and then in another round to Peter Stastny of Quebec. So he has become the defensive specialist of this Philadelphia team.
Well, we talk of all the young hockey players on this Philadelphia Flyers team. They're Murray Craven. You saw him briefly. You'll see a lot of him tonight. He played extremely well, and extremely well, that goes pretty well along with Grant Fuhr's description. He has gone the route practically in playoff for the Edmonton Oilers.
Andy Moles has played in only 2 games, and that took only 20 minutes. Fuhr has done the rest of the goaltending. Here from the faceoff is Huddy for Edmonton. Trying to clear it, and Messier carries up, but Mark Howe is there, and right back comes Mark Howe. Tries to center off the skate of Poulin and Gretzky. Deeps it ahead to Coffey. Each team a man short still. Coffey trying to center, dead. Gretzky a shot. Lindbergh a save. Gretzky scores on the rebound. Wayne Gretzky gives Edmonton a 1-0 lead.
Sooner or later, the great one was going to put that puck in the net. And finally he does. But the setup by Paul Coffey, just a tremendous effort by Coffey. He skated with that puck, carried it in. Gretzky got the first whack at it. Now watch, Lindbergh was down, and Gretzky came around from behind that net and was able to get that puck before Lindbergh was able to. Watch Gretzky. You can see that that puck went off of Mark Howe's skate, and now Mark Howe lost it. Just could not find it in time, could not get to the puck then when he did realize where it was, and Lindbergh, of course, was caught out.
And Edmonton takes a 1-0 lead. Here comes Anderson for the Oilers, and that play goes offside at the Philadelphia blue line. The scoring play, Gretzky, is 11th of the playoffs from Coffey at 10:29.
Well, you can see how much trouble Doug Crossman, number 3 for the Flyers, had trying to take Coffey out of the play initially, and then, of course, that set everything all up. Wayne Gretzky trailing behind Coffey and ends up getting 2 chances. The second time he scores.
Number 11 of the playoffs for Gretzky. Coffey the assist, 10:29 the time. It came with each team a man short, and they're still in that situation. Here's Howe, checked by Messier, and then the puck goes up over the boards at the Philadelphia players' bench. The goal for Gretzky also gives him 37 points so far in the playoffs, and he naturally, or as is usual, is the leading scorer in the playoffs.
I think something I'd mentioned in game number 1, Dan, is the fact that when you have a 4-on-4 situation, it's to the Edmonton Oilers' advantage. They didn't really take advantage of that in game number 1, but here tonight, I think that first goal that they have scored on that 4-on-4 situation was really the fact that they had a little bit more room out there, and boy, they are dangerous when they have room.
Here is Murray Craven for Philadelphia to Thomas Eric to number 27. His pass picked off by Messier. Craven gets it again for the Flyers and dumps it in. Going back is Fogelin. Got around on the board. Messier pinned in there by Citicello, and Messier fell on top of the puck. And we'll get a stoppage right here.
Mark Messier, you can see that on his right eye, he has got a pretty big bruise. He did that in game number 1 and was getting some repairs right after the game by the team doctor. And that's not going to stop Mark Messier from producing by any stretch of the imagination. Pretty determined young hockey player, the winner of the Conn Smythe Trophy last year for the most valuable player in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Marked up a little around the eye and the nose. Who's that a souvenir of?
I tried to find that out before the game, Dan, when I had saw that he was marked up that badly and really couldn't get an answer. Just a little bit, I guess, of the outcome of the war in game number 1.
Here's Jackson clearing to Gretzky at center. Now into Randy Gregg, centering it. A backhander just off the stick of Lindbergh as Gretzky was there again. Now Ron Sutter got to center, was checked and back on the Oilers. Jackson tried to clear it in. Crossman gets it out, and Gary Curry intercepting for Edmonton and shooting it back in. Lindbergh leaving it there. Here's Crossman to Mark Howe. Now to Marsh, who clears it to the Edmonton line with Jackson back to get it, and here is Charlie Huddy. Huddy, number 22, jumping it in. Gretzky, Curry, and the newcomer Tikin on the ice for Edmonton, but right back comes Craven. A nice play for Crockett. Now to Derek Smith. He's ridden out on the play, and Coffey shoots it around to the boards with Hospodar going back to get it for Philadelphia. Hospodar to Crockett to Derek Smith. Broken up by Coffey. He gives it to Gretzky, and then Gretzky tried to give it to McClellan, but he was checked. Now Hospodar for Philadelphia to Craven, or it's Crockett now, who tried to shoot it in. Coffey intercepting that. Edmonton, as the play is mainly in the neutral ice area at this point. Now the Flyers, Hospodar to Smith. Over to Tim Kerr. It's shot in, but picked up by Coffey, and the Oilers come back. He dumps it in. Lindstrom racing in with Brad Marsh. Marsh, number 8 for Philadelphia, makes a good play to quickly get it back out. And here comes Kerr sliding along with in. Pure handles that. Now McClellan for Edmonton to Lee Fogelin. Over onto the wing for Hunter. He's taken out on the far side by Propp, and Brian Propp is able to clear the puck out for Philadelphia. Fogelin going back to get it. Lee Fogelin to Hunter. Comes to center. Crossman intercepting that over to Howe. Now back to Brian Propp to Dave Poulin. Poulin shoots one. Kicked out by Pure with a pad save. Poulin gets it behind the net, the Flyers center, but Pure used his goal stick well to break up the pass up. Fogelin now trying to clear one. Howe couldn't hold it in, and the puck comes all the way to the Philadelphia zone. 1-0, Edmonton leading as the Flyers clear it to center. Jackson shooting it in, and this time the play is offside at the Flyer line.
From coast of the numbers the Flyers have retired is number 1. It belongs to Bernie Perrant. Interesting that the Flyers have reissued it to a 16-year-old lady who has meant an awful lot to the Flyers. Now, Bernie Perrant will be my guest at the end of the first period, and we'll talk about that. And we'll also reminisce about the mid-'70s when he was the star and the Broad Street Bullies did so many vicious things that they had to install these babies to protect the players from themselves. Those were the days.
Here is Miroslav Dvorak shooting it in for Philadelphia. All Coffey back to get it for the Oilers, and Coffey flips it into the center ice area. Erickson knocking that down, setting up Joe Patterson. He lost it, and Anderson has it for Edmonton. Anderson's shot goes off a stick and up into the crowd. Well, on that Edmonton earlier scoring play, the goal by Gretzky, assisted by Coffey, that brings Gretzky within 1 point of equaling his own record of 38 points out of 1983 for a playoff year. And Coffey is just 1 assist shy of Bobby Orr's record of 19 assists by a defenseman in 72. Mr. Gretzky and Mr. Coffey are up with some big company.
Well, records just breaking every place in this Stanley Cup playoff route this year. Dan, I thought, by the way, that you would have taken advantage to say that that was a good place for Al Trotway behind bars.
Behind bars. Keep him under wraps at all times. Keep the public safe. He is one of the most imaginative and humorous people I've ever been around in the television and radio business. Here's Dave Poulin coming back for Philadelphia. Trying to cut in with a backhander off the shoulder of Pure. And then up into the crowd. 5:32 remaining in the first period. 1-0 Edmonton.
Ryan Propp went into the post pretty hard, and again, it's a good thing that those nets come off a little bit easier than they used to. Watch as Propp goes sliding in, just taking that net right off the post. Glenn Anderson, number 9, ended up right in the net. Thinking about those nets, and of course there's been some complaints of the fact that they have been so easy to move and have caused delays in the game. Actually, the person responsible for inventing those nets was in Philadelphia today to look at adjusting them and maybe installing a little heavier magnet, a little stronger magnet, I should say, so that they won't come off quite as easily.
Here's the face-off. Kerr battling Messier. Kerr trying to center low. Interception. Here's Krushelnyski. Ahead to Lee Fogelin. Fogelin just jumping it in. Racing in is Glenn Anderson for Edmonton. Centered, but Erickson intercepted for the Flyers. Erickson shot to center. Fogelin taking over. And he fires it right back in. Here's Erickson for Philadelphia. Trying to clear it. Edmonton almost stole it. Lindbergh came out to clear it, but here's Jari Kurri. And then Erickson cleared one. Held in again by Edmonton. Again, the Flyers failed to clear. Here's Kurri. Center to Krushelnyski. Bouncing puck. Krushelnyski then pulled down, and we'll get a penalty here against Tim Kerr of Philadelphia. And Edmonton, already leading in the game, will now get a power play chance. From coast to coast, it's the Stanley.
Wayne Gretzky is going to get a chance to do his thing on the power play as Tim Kerr sits in the penalty box for the Flyers. 2 minutes for holding was the call. 15-16 was the time.
Edmonton over the regular season, 25.3%, second best in the league, but in the playoffs, not nearly as good. Here's Kurri back to Coffey. Coffey tied up on the play, and it's cleared away by Craven for Philadelphia. The Oilers in the playoffs have 9 goals on the power play, only a 17%. Here's a long slap shot, or wrist shot, I should say, by Huddy wide of the net. Huddy held it in again. Into Gretzky. Back to Huddy. Over to Paul Coffey. Coffey slides it to the side. Curry's deflection turned aside. Now Gretzky. Drops to Coffey. Over to Charlie Huddy, shooting off his skate. Into the corner, and Craven clearing one. It went off Huddy up into the crowd, and then Ron Sutter ran into Huddy. And Huddy and Ron Sutter take a push at each other.
Well, young Esa Tikkanen was out on that power play along with Gretzky and Kurri, and showing some real strength, standing in front of the net, in front of Pelle Lindbergh, trying to cause a deflection or just cause the screen. Charlie Huddy and Ron Sutter. I think Huddy a little upset at the way that Ron Sutter tried to take him out of the play along the boards and retaliated by doing a little bit of pushing and shoving. But once again, Esa Tikkanen is staying out on that ice. He's a really, I guess you would describe him as a very cocky young hockey player. So cocky, in fact, that he only signed with them on Monday, started practicing yesterday, and already this week the Edmonton Oilers have decided to initiate him and give him a shaving as a haircut, and they had to do a little bit of patch job on that here in Philadelphia.
Here's Jari Kurri over to Tikkanen. Number 14, Esa Tikkanen to Gretzky. Back to Tikkanen. He just missed getting his stick on that. Philadelphia trying to clear it. Comes to Tikkanen. Tikkanen, number 14, into Gretzky. He centered it. Lindbergh out of the net to clear it. Huddy dives to hold it in. Kurri couldn't get it in front. And back comes Propp for Philadelphia. Tikkanen tied him up. And the Oilers take control of Coffey. Gets it into the center ice area to Anderson. Back to Coffey. Here's Anderson, and then the play is whistled down on an offside. at the Philadelphia line. 14 seconds still remaining in Tim Kerr's penalty. 2:58 left in the period. It's 1-0 Edmonton.
Well, Pelly Lindbergh here just trying to clear that puck right up middle ice himself. Charlie Huddy did an excellent job of diving across to the middle of the ice, keeping that puck in, and then feeding it off to his winger. But Charlie Huddy showing a few acrobatics there in order to keep that puck in and continue the Edmonton Oilers on the power play. They don't have much time left.
Glenn Sather, the Oilers are not breaking in the youngster Tikkanen too slowly, are they? They throw him onto the power play, regular shift.
Well, it's always
him with fire they got left.
It's only the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah.
See what he can do under pressure.
Here's Edmonton clearing one to center. Dvorak tried to knock it down. Now Mark Napier gets it into the Flyers zone, but Dvorak got it right back out. A jam up on the boards, and now hustling back is Sinisalo. Flyers are back at full strength. Kerr is back on. Here is Tim Kerr. And now the Philadelphia player Sinisalo limps to the bench as he was injured. Puck shot to center. Edmonton on the attack. Carry back in. And it's offside. Meanwhile, Ilka Sinisalo was injured inside the Philadelphia blue line when the play was up ice. And there you see Sinisalo going into the Flyer locker room.
It may have been a shoulder injury that Sinisalo received when Mark Messier just leveled him here. And when Mark Messier hits you, it hurts. Messier is just a powerful skater and a powerful man. Just really laid that shoulder into number 23 for the Flyers, Ilka Sinisalo. You could tell right away that that one hurt.
Randy Gregg, by the way, is also out of this game at this point. We're trying to find out just what his status is. He's in the Edmonton locker room. Here's the puck near the Oiler blue line, and Charlie Huddy knocks that down. Here comes McClellan as the Oilers, who lead 1-0, jump it in. Hospodar is back for Philadelphia. Cleared one. Zezel tied up on the play by Huddy. In comes McClellan. In comes Brad Marsh. And then McClellan and Marsh get their sticks up, and in comes Joe Patterson to help out for Philadelphia.
Kevin McClellan really got that stick up high, and in fact, almost got a piece of Brad Marsh's head. Brad Marsh does not wear a helmet, so any sticks up around that area are potentially dangerous. Kevin McClellan not too well liked right now here at the Spectrum. Let's take a look at how that all came about. You can see Marsh taking McClellan in along the boards and just continues to hold him. Now watch that stick. It missed Marsh, but not by much. And then, of course, Joe Patterson came right into Marsh's aid. Joe Patterson, a pretty tough, rugged winger himself for the Philadelphia Flyers.
McClellan was very prominent in the playoffs a year ago for Edmonton. This year in the playoffs, a very meager 1 goal and 2 assists, and over the regular season had a very disappointing year, only 8 goals. Here's Huddy, a shot from the point just wide. And Lindsey Carson comes back for Philadelphia. He's checked and Coffey feeding one to Willie Lindstrom, number 19. Quick wrist shot. Lindbergh made the save and then held onto it. And we'll get a face-off in the Philadelphia zone now with 1:38 left in the first period.
Now, Pelly Lindbergh is not about to take any chances the way that the Edmonton Oilers are coming in on him tonight. They're going for the net, and that's something as you watch Willie Lindstrom, number 19, take that shot right on net. That's what Glenn Sather wanted. He wanted his players tonight going for the net an awful lot more than they did in Game 1. And, of course, after Game 1, almost anything would have been an improvement as far as the Edmonton Oilers were concerned. And they needed more shots tonight, and they needed to look at least for those rebounds. Lindbergh does not give up much. But anything that he does give up, you better be right there on the doorstep to grab it quickly.
The Oilers in this period have outshot Philadelphia 8-6. Here's Ron Sutter against Gretzky. Gretzky has scored the only goal of the game. It's 1-0 Edmonton. This faceoff is deep in the Philadelphia zone. Sutter will be tossed out. And it's Derek Smith against Gretzky. Smith gets the draw. Gretzky stole it. Centered it. Curry couldn't get his stick on it, and now pocket is checked. Here's Derek Smith trying to clear one, and the rookie Tikkanen, number 14, has it at center ice. Pocket ties him up. It's shot in, and Mark Howe takes over for Philadelphia. Pass to Crossman. Ahead to Sutter. Tikkanen then bumps Ron Sutter. Now Derek Smith cleared it in, but the Oilers carry right back out with Lee Fogelin. Getting it to center to Gretzky, and then it's knocked away by Mark Howe up over the boards at the Flyer bench.
Wayne Gretzky in game number 1 apparently was suffering from a bad cold and also the flu, which he'd had the day before and was a little bit drained. Now, we didn't hear that from Wayne Gretzky. He's not the type of player that will use anything as an excuse, even his illness, but we have learned that Gretzky was a little under the weather, and that is why I think Glenn Sather was utilizing him on the wing a lot, trying to do his best to get him away from Ron Sutter, knowing that Gretzky was a little bit drained for game number 1. He looked much better tonight.
Puck is shot in by Philadelphia. Kevin Lowe is there to clear it right back out. We're in the final minute of the first period. Crossman gets it near the Edmonton line. Fogelin to Curry, now to Gretzky. Gretzky moving in for the Oilers. Shoots one up high off the glass. And it's Ron Sutter trying to clear it. Gets it to Craven. Now to Rick Tocchet. Broken up, and a penalty coming up here. And it's going to be against Tikkanen, and then Tocchet trying to get at Tikkanen. And we have a melee just outside the Edmonton blue line. Meanwhile, the penalty has been called against the Oilers rookie, the 19-year-old Esa Tikkanen.
Well, we told you before the game that Esa Tikkanen was a fairly rugged young player. Interesting that Tikkanen, he's getting married in a couple of weeks, Dan, and he's marrying a Swedish girl who cannot speak Finnish. He can't speak Swedish, but they can both speak English, so they can at least communicate. He's doing a little communicating right on the ice right now, I believe, to number 22, Philadelphia Flyers, Rick Tocchet. Let's take a look at how all of this got started. As you can see, John D'Amico having a little bit of difficulty getting Tocchet into the penalty box. Let's watch Tikkanen, number 14. He takes a pretty good two-hander there to Tocchet, and that's what obviously got Tocchet riled up. I think Tikkanen's experience playing in the Western Junior League taught him that utilizing that stick is sometimes more than just utilizing it for handling the puck.
So it's a slashing penalty to Tikkanen, and then the retaliatory penalty to Tocchet for cross-checking, both coming at 19:21, and each team will be a man short. 39 seconds left in the period. Ron Sutter, one of the Sutter boys from Viking, Alberta. One of 6, of course, in the National Hockey League. His twin brother Rich is with the Flyers, but not in uniform tonight.
I think Kerry Fraser right now might be telling both Paul Coffey and Dave Poulin maybe their teams to cool it, and at the end of this period, 39 seconds to go, to make sure that both teams go directly to their respective dressing rooms and no fooling around out in the ice.
Edmonton with each team a man short. Controlling is Anderson. Backhands it in. Messier racing in to get it. Crossman ties him up. Now Anderson and Howe behind the net. Puck comes loose, and Ron Sutter, number 14, ahead to Mark Howe, number 2. Howe couldn't get around Paul Coffey, and now Anderson starting back for Edmonton. Howe broke that up. Dave Poulin and Gretzky fight for it. Gretzky kicking it back for Huddy. Back to Gretzky, and Gretzky is too well checked in the play by Ron Sutter, and there's the buzzer to end the first period here in Philadelphia. Shots on goal in the opening period, favoring the visiting Oilers by a margin of 8-6. Coming up, the Flyers goaltending coach and a Hall of Famer himself as a goaltender. Played a big part in the Flyers' Stanley Cup victories back in the mid-70s, Bernie Ferrand. After one period, Edmonton 1, Philadelphia 0. Our intermission coming right up.
Hey, you want to know how to make a car sing? Well, after you wash it, just get out the old armor off.
Nothing in favor of the Edmonton Oilers, and as this period begins, each team will be a man short. Rick Tocchet and the youngster Tikkanen each have a minute 21 left in their penalties that carry over from the first period. Messier against Dave Poulin. Kerry Fraser drops the puck, and the second period is underway. This is Kevin Lowe for Edmonton to Glenn Anderson. Anderson, number 9, big, strong Oiler winger. Moves in, lets the shot go off Marsh and up into the crowd here at the Spectrum. Well, Gary, I know you want to join me in extending our deep sympathy to Phil Esposito and to Tony Esposito and the rest of the Esposito family on the passing of their dad, Pat Esposito. He had a lot to do with the careers of those two young men, and I send out my deepest sympathy to the Esposito family on the passing of their dad.
Oh, Dan, I had met Pat Esposito a couple of times when I used to coach junior hockey, and we used to play in the Sioux. He's a tremendous hockey fan and historically missed in the Sault Ste. Marie area.
The Sioux, for the benefit of people who may not be aware, is Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Or there's the Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, too, of course. But Pat and the Esposito clan were from Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Here's Brad Marsh in across the line to Prop. That shot turned aside. Vogeland is there to clear it, and Anderson cleared the puck to center. Marsh has it for Philadelphia. Marsh ahead to Poulin. Dave Poulin shoots one and put off Vogeland, went wide of the goal. And now the Oilers, Anderson at center to Gretzky. Number 99, Wayne Gretzky. Dropping it to Curry. Now Coffey came up to try and hold it in, but Murray Craven breaks out. He's checked in. Curry feeds Gretzky. Back to Curry. Curry shot. Lindbergh the save. Rebound, and Coffey timed it perfectly as he took a whack at it. But Lindbergh was able to hold it.
Well, we talked about that in the first period, Dan, that the Edmonton Oilers wanted to get in and go for that net a little bit more often than they did in game number 1. And here is a pretty good example of it. That puck right on net. Lindbergh doesn't give up much of a rebound, but Paul Coffey, number 7 for the Oilers, right there. Perfect timing, exactly just as Dan said. Let's watch it one more time. Watch how Coffey comes storming in there. Just got a whack at that puck about the same time that Lindbergh got his glove on it.
Face off. Gretzky and Ron Sutter. Ron Sutter wins it, and Howe has it for Philadelphia. Penalized players come back on. Sutter to center, but Heikkinen gets it for Edmonton. He's quickly checked, and back comes Howe. Tied up by Curry. Gary Curry has the puck. Now Sutter with a shot. Muir turned that aside, and then Coffey cleared the rebound just in time. Here's Heikkinen. Ahead to Curry. Curry sliding it back for Paul Coffey. Coffey into Heikkinen. Heikkinen trying to drop it to Curry. He's checked, and Howe cleared it away for Philadelphia. Ron Sutter to Doug Crossman, and here come the Flyers. Tried to pass to Craven that was out of his reach. Huddy missed it back to the net, but Heikkinen is there. Heikkinen buffed around, held on to the puck for a moment. Now the Flyers, Zezel trying to get it free, but it's Curry feeding Gretzky. Gretzky one-on-one against Marsh. Dropping it to Hunter, and a bouncing puck went over Hunter's stick. Lindstrom to Hunter. Marsh ties him up. Now Lindstrom to Gretzky. Centers one. Here's Vogeland shooting. And that went off the crossbar, I believe, or Lindbergh's stick, I think, the crossbar. From Maine to Maui, you're watching the Stanley Cup Finals only.
Randy Gregg, by the way, is back on the bench of the Edmonton Oilers. He had a twisted knee and was being worked on in the dressing room of the Edmonton Oilers. For the Philadelphia Flyers, Ilka Sinisalo apparently has been taken to the hospital for x-rays with an apparent wrist injury. We'll keep you informed if we hear any more on Ilka Sinisalo's condition.
Flyers are very secretive, we might add, about their injury. Now we have a scrap going back at center ice. Tim Kerr and Hunter of Edmonton.
The concern here for Tim Kerr would be the fact that, let's remember, he has got an injured knee. He's wearing a brace on it, and this type of action is not necessarily good for his knee by any stretch of the imagination. When you're skating backwards, forwards, that's one thing in maneuvering, but now trying to fight against Dave Hunter and really jamming that knee to some extent back and forth and sideways, this will be a pretty good test for Tim Kerr's knee condition.
And finally, the linesmen pry those two apart and will get penalties. Number 12 for the Oilers is Dave Hunter. And number 12 for the Flyers is Jim Kerr. The score, Edmonton 1, Philadelphia 0.
Not exactly a place Tim Kerr likes to be too often. That's in the penalty box. He's got a 5-minute major for fighting, as does Edmonton's Dave Hunter. 2:39 is the time. Dual penalties being assessed.
From the face-off, it's Fogelin trying to get it to Lindstrom. Dvorak knocks that down, and Poulin gets it in across the line to Prop. He's too well shut. Now, here is Erickson with a backhander that Fuhr turns aside, and Lowe clears it out. Dvorak holding it in to Prop. He fanned out it, and Kevin Lowe cleared it. Prop knocks it down. Big slap shot, and it's away up over the glass and into the crowd.
Well, I'd say that the Edmonton Oilers are doing quite a bit of good, close checking themselves out here in tonight's game, showing a lot of respect for these Philadelphia Flyers. Take a look and see that every time the Philadelphia Flyers have been shooting tonight, that wobbling puck almost comes right at the cameraman, that it was really from a bad angle. Edmonton doing a pretty good job in front of Grant Fuhr, limiting the Philadelphia Flyers to some really poor percentage shots.
Face-off at the Edmonton line. The Oilers' Crucial Niski taken out by Prop. Now Lowe flips the puck near the Flyer line, and Brad Marsh goes back to get it. Lindsey Carson now trying to clear it. Intercepting it is McClellan. McClellan taken out by Marsh, but centered. Crucial Niski couldn't get a shot off. Carson cleared that. Fogelin at the point. His shot wide, and Prop tried to clear it. Now it is in the center ice area, but Lowe beating Mike Crucial Niski. Crucial Niski, number 26. Back of the goal to Lindstrom. He can't get it. Now McClellan taken out by Carson, but got it in front. Here's Crucial Niski in front. Big save in front of the net, I think, by the defenseman on Lindstrom. And then it's shot away by Philadelphia. Did that shot ever get through to Lindbergh or not, Garrett?
I really don't think so, Dan. I'm not sure whether it hit a defenseman or whether or not it hit Lindsey Carson. Very difficult to tell. That shot really was a rocket and came quickly.
Now Edmonton clear it in, but the Flyers come right back out, and Ron Sutter has to hustle back, beating Rick Tocchet. Tocchet now to Carson, back to Sutter, who pokes it in. Huddy for the Oilers. Trying to clear it right back out. Tocchet knocking it down. Here's Rick Tocchet bumping with Huddy. Centered by Sutter, but Smith was checked before he could shoot. Penalty coming up against Philadelphia. Here's Coffey on the delayed penalty, dropping it back. The Oilers still control it. Messier has to go all the way back near his own line. 6 attackers for Edmonton on this delayed penalty against the Flyers. Lead pass to Gretzky. Crossman is there to break it up. And now the penalty will be called against Edmonton. For our local systems, we'll...
Rick Tocchet. The Philadelphia Flyers in the penalty box right now. 2 minutes for high sticking. 4:54 was the time, and he had that stick right up around the ears. And as of Charlie Huddy, and as a result, he's sitting in the penalty box cooling himself off right now.
Here's Gretzky in the corner. Edmonton with the lead, and Gretzky and the Oilers on the power play to Curry. Back to Coffey, a shot. Blocked by Howe. Coffey held it in. Here's Gretzky. Trying to center. Comes to Peekinen, the rookie. He tried to get it to Gretzky, but Crossman intercepts that and cleared it down into the Edmonton zone with Huddy going back to get it. Thierry Curry. Now to Paul Coffey, number 7. Coffey dropping it. Here's Gretzky. Shooting, and Lindbergh came out and got a piece of that. And Peekinen slides it to Gretzky. Off his stick and intercepted, and Craven clears it away for Philadelphia.
I'm not really that surprised that Peekinen's getting a lot of ice time regular shift, but I am surprised that he's getting so much ice time on the power play. That's usually something that 5-man unit develops over the course of time, and he couldn't have had much time to practice it.
There's Prop stealing it to Philadelphia. To Ron Sutter. Back to Prop. Pass eluded him. Ron Sutter now. Trying to center. Curry trying to pry it loose. So does Coffey, and the puck comes to Kevin Lowe. Lowe around on the board to Thierry Curry. Edmonton on a power play. 33 seconds left in pocket penalty, and here's Lowe. Headmanning to Glenn Anderson. Anderson back to Gretzky, returned. Oh, and put right through the goal crease by Anderson, and then Anderson knocked down and propped. Feeds it out for Philadelphia. Low for the Oilers. Over to Fogelin, now to Anderson. He shoots it in for Messier. Crossman going back to pick it up. And he cleared the zone, and the Oilers, Fogelin has to hustle back. Pocket is back on. The Flyers have killed it off. And Brad Marsh has it at center. To Miroslav Dvorak, who shoots it in. Low for the Oilers, giving it to Fogelin. Fired back to center. And the Flyers with Brad Marsh jumping into the Edmonton zone. Low going back to get it. And this is an icing call against Philadelphia. 12:46 left in the second period. 1-0, Edmonton leading. The place to stay for explosive. 12:46 left in the second period. Edmonton leading 1-0. McClellan getting ready for a face-off, but Dave Pullen, native of Timmins, Ontario, played college hockey at Notre Dame, questioning the linesman, and Pullen wins the face-off. Here's McClellan. Dropping it to Coffey. Coffey shot Lindbergh to his knees to make the save. And he held on to it.
And meanwhile, Brad Marsh right in front of the net, doing his job, making sure that no Oiler was about to take a second whack at that puck, even though Pelle Lindbergh had it well tied up. Big Mike Krushelnyski, number 26, standing his ground in front, but that's his number 17, Ed Hospodar, that John D'Amico is having some words with right now. I think D'Amico wants to make sure that he keeps this man intact. Ed Hospodar can get riled up pretty easy.
Hospodar came over to Philadelphia this year, assigned as a free agent, and there you see him bumping with McClellan. And we're going to get penalties. Hospodar and Krushelnyski will go to the penalty box.
Well, Mike Keenan wanted to get a tough, rugged defenseman, and Hospodar definitely fits that bill. He's been with the Rangers and with the Hartford Whalers and finding a home here in Philadelphia right now.
So roughing penalties to Hospodar and Krushelnyski. And each team will be a man short. That's the way Edmonton scored their earlier goal. And that's the situation coming up right now for number 99, Wayne Gretzky and the Oilers, plus the Philadelphia Flyers.
Well, I just think, once again, that you play 4-on-4 or 3-on-3 against the Edmonton Oilers, and you're asking for a little bit of trouble. The Philadelphia Flyers can check, they can skate, they work hard out there, but the more ice you give the Edmonton Oilers, the more they enjoy it out there. So this puts really the Flyers in a little bit worse position than it does the Oilers.
Ron Sutter won that face-off from Gretzky, and Howe gives it to Sutter, trying to feed Craven just out of his reach. You're clearing it in. Now Ron Sutter in front, backhander, and he shot it just wide. Sutter again, trying to center, but Gretzky intercepts. Gretzky to Curry. Now a pass ahead for Coffey. He didn't see it coming. The puck goes the length of the ice, and this will be icing against Edmonton.
Well, when the Philadelphia Flyers are faced with this situation, though, they're very clever to put their mobile players out there. Doug Crossman and Mark Howe, of course, their two most mobile defensemen were out there on the ice. Ron Sutter doing the checking job against Gretzky, and Murray Craven that can move pretty well out there.
Gary Curry heading for the Edmonton bench. 18 goals so far in the playoffs this year. And his next will tie an all-time Stanley Cup playoff record. 19 goals. That's set by a former Flyer, Reggie Leach.
Well, not much question that Wayne Gretzky and Gary Curry are the most exciting 1-2 punch in the National Hockey League. They're a real treat to watch out there when they're playing. Gary Curry really with the greater of the two, speed, and Wayne Gretzky likes to feed him. Not a selfish player the least bit. Neither one of those players are selfish. They're just great playmakers. Any left winger, a real treat to play with those two guys.
By the way, Reggie Leach had his 19 goals in 1976. Puck is shot down the ice by Edmonton. Miroslav Dvorak back to get it. And as he touches it, another icing call coming up against the Oilers. Michael Hughes has touched briefly on the fact that Philadelphia's game plan or their big success comes when they take the lead in the game. Do you agree with that thinking, Gary?
Yeah, no question, Dan. And they have done that, not just under Mike Keenan's guidance, but for years the Philadelphia Flyers in this building just come at you and forecheck, as they said today, the forecheck the socks off you, and they like to get that early lead, and then they can defend it pretty well. And, of course, it changes a little bit when they have to play catch-up hockey.
That's what they're having to do right now. They're trailing 1-0. Here's Messier for the Oilers. Each team still a man short. Messier taken out by Crossman. Puck knocked back of the net, and Howe cleared it out for Philadelphia. Kevin Lowe will touch it, and the linesman will whistle it down because of an icing call, and the faceoff will come back deep into the Philadelphia zone.
Well, Glenn Sather, you see him behind the bench for the Edmonton Oilers, stirring up things a little bit after game one. Glenn Sather, a very lively and colorful person in Stanley Cup playoffs. He, as Dan Kelly had mentioned in the first part of the game, a little upset because of the fact that Pelly Lindbergh had water bottles on the top of his net, and he had that really since halfway through this season. He's been utilizing that. Pelly Lindbergh getting a little dehydrated. Glenn Sather said, well, you're going to have water bottles on the net. You might as well have cheese and crackers. You might as well bring out a bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken, and we'll just have lunch. Didn't go over too well, but that is Glenn Sather in the way that he can express himself at times.
Here's Mark Howe for Philadelphia. Shooting one, and that's blocked by Lowe. Held in by Howe. Rebound. Craven hit the goal post with the rebound. Centered, and Yari Curry knocked it away. Howe held it in. The Flyers now carry right back in. Ron Sutter to Craven. Craven dropping it to Crossman. Crossman checked, and Gretzky, and the Oilers come back. Here's Gretzky with Curry on a 2-on-1. Gretzky into the slot. Lindbergh slides out and made a big save on Gretzky. Lindbergh stayed right with Gretzky there. Back comes Craven. He's checked and copied. Feeds Messier. Messier checked by Howe. Messier again. In front, Huddy's shot. Big save, Pelly Lindbergh there. And then the puck winds up underneath the fallen Flyer player, Craven, in the corner. And a couple of perhaps game savers there by that man, Pelly Lindbergh. By the way, Pelly will celebrate his 26th birthday tomorrow.
Well, he's celebrating right now, I would think, just after making a great save on Wayne Gretzky. Watch the way that Gretzky just maneuvers out there. Mark Howe will tell you how well he maneuvers, as he really got caught on Gretzky's move, but Pelly Lindbergh makes the initial save. Gretzky then went for the rebound, just couldn't find the net. And then Mark Messier here on this drive just sends it out to Charlie Huddy, number 22. Huddy lets it go, and Lindbergh comes up with another big save. So Lindbergh had his hands full there in the last 20 seconds.
Pelly Lindbergh, the Flyer goaltender, getting ready for this face-off to the right of the Philadelphia net. 10.5 minutes left in the second period. It's still 1-0 Edmonton.
Actually, on that 4-on-4 situation, the Philadelphia Flyers actually controlled the play for the majority of the time and could not work themselves into a good scoring position on Grant Fuhr, and as so often happens, as soon as there was a turnover in play, the Edmonton Oilers just come out gangbusters and break out on you very quickly.
Messier against Poulin. Puck is taken by Marsh for Philadelphia. Shot it. Messier held it in, tried to feed Crucial Niski. Messier again intercepting. But Poulin will get it for the Flyers. And as he cleared it over the glass. Randy Gregg, as we mentioned, is back on the Edmonton bench after suffering a knee injury in the first period. He's back on the bench, but has not yet played in this second period.
No, he hasn't, and of course that's going to mean a little bit more ice time for players like Kevin Lowe and Charlie Huddy and Paul Coffey. All of those players, of course, can take lots of ice time. Let's take a look at that shot once again by Charlie Huddy. How well he moves in from the point. He sees Messier with possession of the puck, and Messier wasn't really in the position to score, so Huddy just very quickly moving into the slot.
Here is Marsh for Philadelphia. Lead pass to center for Carson. He was taken out on the play. And as Coffey goes back to touch it, it's an icing call against Philadelphia once again. Edmonton showing that they're not just the prolific scoring team, but they're playing a very disciplined game tonight, too.
And, Dan, they can do that because we have seen the Edmonton Oilers, and especially referring back to last year in the Stanley Cup playoffs against the good defensive team, the New York Islanders, and the Edmonton Oilers really showed people in the NHL that they can play a pretty good defensive game as well as a good, strong offensive game.
Here is Putty sliding the puck back in. Lindbergh is there, and Marsh tries to clear it. Tim Kerr couldn't get away from Coffey. Now Poulin picking it up. Dave Poulin taken out by Messier. Coffey trying to clear it. Here's Poulin again in front to Curry. Scores! No, he did not, apparently. Or else he did. Tim Kerr ties this game at 1-1. Did the red light ever come on, Gary?
I don't think so, Dan, and I really lost sight of that puck. Kerr shot it so quickly that I wasn't sure whether it went in or whether it was deflected. Let's see how this was set up and how quickly that shot came. Paul Coffey taking his man out in front, or in the corner, I should say. Poulin sending it out. Here comes Kerr. I have a tough time following that puck even on the replay, but it does end up in the net. Let's watch it from the second angle. Poulin putting that puck out. Now you can see it much better. Kerr just getting some wood on it and letting it go. Grant Kerr, you can see the expression on Pure. He didn't know where that puck went either, but it was behind him. Paul Coffey going into the boards, but Poulin, nobody on Poulin, and nobody, obviously, on Tim Kerr. That's the best scoring chance that the Philadelphia Flyers have had all game long, and they took advantage of it.
Now the red light comes on.
I'd say he was a little late down there.
A little. Tim Kerr gets the goal, and the Flyers battle back to tie it at 1-1. That may be the most doubtful he shoots, he scores I've ever said.
Well, I was with you, though, Dan. I didn't know where that puck went.
Kerr's goal is 10th of the playoffs, assisted by Poulin and Carson. 10:22 the time here in the second period. Here's Zezel shooting it in. Comes right back to Zezel. He fanned on it. And now the Oilers led by Hunter. Drop pass to McClellan. Shot right on. Lindbergh made the save. And now an injured Oiler, Kevin McClellan, down on the ice.
And I think that was Ed Hospodar that ran into McClellan. He may not know which city he is in right now. The trainer for the Oilers rushed out there very quickly. I think asking him his name, his telephone number, and a bunch of other vital statistics. Let's watch and see how that collision occurred. I think it was Hospodar that ran into Kevin McClellan and ran him pretty good. That has been an ongoing battle between those two players.
Very similar to the check that Messier gave to Sinisalo back in the first period.
Well, they don't call him Boxcar Hospodar for nothing.
You talk about checking the socks off the guy. A check like that makes your socks change feet.
They'll say they're examining the situation on the ice very closely right now, and he knows that this series is going to be full of hard knocks and lots of intensity from this point onward.
For our local systems, we'll pause here.
I'm not sure whether Kevin McClellan knows where he is even now, while he's sitting on the bench of the Edmonton Oilers. Ed Hospodar, having gone off for a rest. A big hit like Hospodar's just continues the momentum for the Philadelphia Flyers. After scoring that goal, the Flyers started their swarming again, and of course with that check, Hospodar landed on McClellan. That just gives the Philadelphia Flyers a little bit more.
Here's Ron Sutter jumping it in for Philadelphia. Kevin Lowe back to get it. Cleared it to Curry. Sutter intercepted. His shot blocked by Lowe. And then Lowe is able to clear it out for the Oilers. Crossman flipping one for Ron Sutter. Shot in, and Derek Smith taken out by Lowe. Here's Tikkanen for Edmonton. Failed to clear it, but the Oilers get it anyway, and Gretzky headmanning it to Tikkanen, who leaves it for Curry. Gary Curry got it in. Howe knocked it down, and then Derek Smith ran into the Oiler player. Puck shot in. The Flyers quickly cleared right out, and here's Howe. To Derek Smith. Shooting. Oh, and he just missed there. Howe trying to get the rebound in front. Gary Curry tied him up. And then Curry, and attempting to clear it, cleared it over the glass. 8:14 left in the second period. A 1-1 game. This is what you call an old-fashioned hockey game, Gary.
Well, it really is, Dan. Lots of good hard knocks out there, and of course in a 1-1 hockey game, not exactly the same type of series that the Edmonton Oilers just finished against the Chicago Blackhawks. Let's watch some of these good chances that the Philadelphia Flyers have had as of late. That was Derek Smith, number 24 for the Flyers, that got that shot away just a little bit wide as Fuhr got a piece of it. But the Flyers, no question, have a little bit of momentum going for them right now, and with a 1-1 hockey game, of course, they're starting over brand new.
Poulin shot just wide. And the Oilers clear the puck right up the middle of the ice. Lindbergh comes out to play it. Messier will hold it in for Edmonton. He's taken out by Kerr. Now Anderson for Edmonton. Trying to center one. Napier poked it in front, but Marsh is there to clear it. Now Huddy pinching in from the point. Couldn't get it in front. And now play is called. And Marsh argues with the referee, Kerry Fraser, about this call, which is going to be a penalty to Philadelphia. And I think to Brad Marsh for slashing. From wherever you are, we hope you're enjoying the Stanley Cup Finals here on USA Sports.
This is the home of the Stanley Cup champions here in Philadelphia, the Oiler dressing room. One of the Oilers refused for many years to take a walk with us, and it's a short walk, as you can see, into our studio. But tonight, after respectfully declining many times, Gary Curry will make the walk into our studio.
Al, what are you doing? I'm trying to watch the game
and
here.
We'll
please.
interview him at the end of the period, so be with us.
That Al Trowig now even has Mike Liut acting. Here's Howe trying to clear one. Huddy held it in. Into the corner to Anderson. Edmonton on a power play, by the way. This Coffey shot off a stick up into the crowd. Marsh on that last play got a high sticking penalty, 12-11 the time. And so Edmonton on a power play.
Well, and you can see the fans here in the Spectrum were scrambling for that souvenir, and look who was the strongest of them all. Well, she won herself a puck and a souvenir of the Stanley Cup Finals. Let's take a look at some of this action here in the Philadelphia end zone. Once again, Telly Lindbergh having to make some key saves right here. Oilers were unable to get that second shot on net. And Lindbergh really has been the difference here because he has made a number of big saves that could have well have given Edmonton a bigger lead.
Here's Huddy for the Oilers. Dropping it to Messier. Over to Coffey. Paul Coffey shooting. Lindbergh, a glove save there. And he held on.
That's the real...
When the score was 1-0, Gary, he made 2 or 3 very big saves that could have turned this game greatly or drastically in favor of Edmonton.
Dan, you're reading my mind, and as we see this shot coming from the point, you can see Lindbergh just standing his ground, making that save. But that's the key to great goaltending, Dan. When you're down 1-0 and you make one big save after another, that gives your club the opportunity to be able to come back. And again, as you had indicated, maybe could have been 2 or 3-0 had Lindbergh not made those saves.
Puck is shot in by Philadelphia. Coffey back to get it. Can't get away from Craven. Drops it to number 22, Charlie Huddy. Huddy just jumping it in. Ron Sutter trying to clear it. It comes right to Lindbergh, who gives it to Crossman. Now back to Sutter. And Sutter's able to clear it out for Philadelphia. A minute left in Marsh's penalty. Here's Messier. Dropping one to Gretzky. Gretzky to Coffey. Over to Kevin Lowe. Shooting. Oh, big save. Lindbergh there. And right back comes Trot. And a penalty coming up against Edmonton. Drop pass to Howe. Broken up by Coffey. And now the delayed penalty against the Oilers will be called. And interference call signals referee Kerry Fraser. We'll be right back on USA Sports.
Glenn Anderson of the Oilers. 2 minutes for interference as he sits in the penalty box. 13:35 is the time. An interference on Kelly Lindbergh. Lindbergh comes up with one good save after another.
In this period, Gary, Edmonton's had 10 shots on goal. Philadelphia only 3. But the Flyers have scored on one of those to tie it. Now that just emphasizes even more how key the play of Lindbergh has been in this period, which has this game tied at 1 apiece. Messier against Ron Sutter. Each team a man short because Marsh was already in there for Philadelphia. He has 36 seconds left in his penalty. And the Oilers get it to Lowe, stolen by Poland. Big save, Pure on Ron Sutter. And now it's Grant Pure's moment in the sun. Here the Oilers breaking away a lead pass to Gretzky. His shot blocked by Erickson, who went down in front of him. Edmonton dropping it to Lowe. Kevin Lowe to Gretzky. Gretzky to Curry. Curry with a shot well wide of the net. Gretzky and Howe, or Dvorak it is, battled in the corner. Gretzky kicking it loose. Now Marsh is back on. Philadelphia with a power play as Ron Sutter has the puck. Anderson is still off for Edmonton. Here's Dvorak. Dvorak a little hesitant. Now giving it to Sinisalo, who's back out there. Here's Hunter for Edmonton. Drop pass back. Gary Curry shooting, and he just missed there. Here's Vogelin at the point. Sinisalo blocked that shot. Now Hunter into the corner. And Hunter fell right on top of the puck. And there's Ilka Sinisalo. We had word that he'd left the Spectrum to go for x-rays. If he did, he's back. And there you see him.
Well, Sinisalo shows an awful lot. Him coming right back out. Ilka Sinisalo coming back into this game. And, of course, the Philadelphia Flyers really need Ilka Sinisalo in this lineup.
That was quite a save Pure made on Ron Sutter.
Grant Pure just he doesn't want to be outdone at the other end by Kelly Lindbergh. I don't know, Dan, has any team ever, you've been hockey for a number of years in the NHL, has any team ever won a Stanley Cup that didn't have great goaltending? I just think back in the last decade or so, and you look at the Philadelphia Flyers and Bernie Perrant and the Montreal Canadiens and Ken Dryden and the New York Islanders and Billy Smith. You've got to have great goaltending to win a Stanley Cup.
It's like having great pitching in the World Series. That's the similarity. Here is Todd Bergen with a shot. Pure stops that. Edmonton quickly clear the zone. Crossman for Philadelphia going back. 25 seconds left in the Anderson penalty. Lead pass to Todd Bergen, number 19. Bergen checks. Huddy couldn't clear it out, but Coffey does. Or actually, it was Hunter that did. And Crossman goes back to get it and gives it to Mark Howe. Howe headmanning it to Sinisalo. Upended by Coffey. Howe to Sinisalo. Centered to Bergen. Shot right on and Pure. A juggling save, and then he held on.
And there are 3 Philadelphia Flyers that were waiting for Pure to lose that puck. Mark Howe was right in on top. Ilka Sinisalo was on his way. Let's watch. You can see that shot coming, and watch Pure. He makes a save. It bounces up, but he catches it. Now here comes the Philadelphia Flyers. Mark Howe, he was right in on top of Pure very quickly.
4:24 left in the second period. Still a 1-1 game.
Grant Pure just cleaning away some of that snow in his crease, and Pure just with tremendous reflexes. Let's watch Sinisalo, and as he was going one-on-one on Paul Coffey and got tripped up there, Sinisalo, who we had been told earlier had a bad wrist and was being x-rayed at the hospital. Whether or not that report was true, and as you mentioned a couple of times, very difficult to get reports from the Philadelphia Flyers. They are very, very secretive about their potential injuries or injuries.
Puck is cleared into the center ice area by Edmonton. The team's back at full strength now. Here's Krushelnyski stealing one into Lindstrom, but Patterson cleared it away for Philadelphia. Vogelin trying to shoot it back in. McClellan is checked by Marsh. And the puck bouncing around in the center ice area. Krushelnyski flipping it in. Marsh is there. He's checked on the play. Marsh taken out. Here's Krushelnyski. Centered. They score! From the slot, Willie Lindstrom. And Edmonton has the lead once again.
Willie Lindstrom has really had a good playoff. He has been playing very consistently, and let's watch here as the Edmonton Oilers do some pretty good forechecking. That was Kevin McClellan that really forced the play initially, and then Krushelnyski passing that puck right out to Willie Lindstrom. He wasted no time. He just snapped that puck quickly, put it behind Lindbergh. Let's watch again. That's Kevin McClellan off to the left of your screen that had went in and forechecked Brad Marsh. Marsh almost got back in time to back up Kelly Lindbergh. Playing goal. Dvorak was watching the puck there, and two Philadelphia Flyers went for Krushelnyski, but could not get to him in time before he passed that puck out in the slot to Lindstrom.
Lindstrom's fourth goal of the playoffs, and it gives Edmonton a 2-1 lead. Bouncing puck to Huddy, now to Yari Curry. Ahead to Gretzky, but Howe breaks it up. Now Coffey carrying in. Center to Gretzky, and a bouncing puck went off his stick up into the crowd. The scoring play, Lindstrom, his fourth of the playoffs. Krushelnyski and McClellan the assist. 16:08 the time, and Edmonton has a 2-1 lead.
You notice when that pass came out to Gretzky, it was a good hard pass, but he just could not quite control it, and that puck was doing some pretty good bouncing out there. Yari Curry and Wayne Gretzky moved that puck around to each other so well, and on this ice surface, been plenty of complaints for the last couple of days. Funny thing, Keith Allen apparently had said, I don't know what Glenn Sather is complaining about in regards to the ice. I've been complaining about this ice here at the Spectrum for a number of years. They have had a problem. They have not overlooked it. They have been trying to correct that problem. It just hasn't worked.
Here's Gretzky in forechecking, but Crossman breaks loose and cleared it. Coffey knocking that down. Coffey to take it into Gretzky, now to Curry. Drop pass back. Saved by Lindbergh on Charlie Huddy. Howe clearing it to Derek Smith. Huddy made a good play to hold it in. Now a centering pass intercepted by Crossman. And back come the Flyers. Crossman to Smith. He flips it in. Muir cleared it. Ron Sutter knocking that down. Centered. Oh, and just wide. Now Smith a shot. Wide of the net. The first one hit pocket and it deflected just wide. Coffey behind the goal. Gets the puck loose, and the Oilers' Huddy gives it to Tikkanen, who tried to clear it in. Back comes Marsh for the Flyers to Kerr. And the play is offside at the Edmonton blue line as you look at the Flyers' captain, Dave Poulin.
We'll talk about a player that is playing hurt. Dave Poulin has got a bad knee. He has got bad ribs, but yet he continues to play. He went off the ice in game number 1 and was in the dressing room for a while. We had been told that it was once again some rib problem that was affecting Dave Poulin, but yet Mike Keenan said he was off getting his skates sharpened. So you're not quite sure who to believe in these situations, and of course the Flyers would like to keep their injury secret for a lot of good reasons.
Messier's quick wrist shot. Good stick save there by Lindbergh, and now Hospodar gets it to Prop. At center to Poulin. Ahead to Marsh. Marsh taken out on the play at the Edmonton line, and then the puck is held there. And we'll get a face-off. 2:09 left in the second period. Jim Kerr, who has scored the only Philadelphia goal, and who had 54 of them over the regular season.
Well, Dan, as you look at Tim Kerr, a player that we have talked about and his injuries, some of the reasons why teams don't really like to disclose their injuries, especially in the Stanley Cup Finals, is the fact that, look, this is a man's game. They're being paid an awful lot of money out there, and when a player has a bad shoulder or a bad knee, it is not unlike the other team to try and test that shoulder out just by giving him a little extra hit. Nobody is trying to hurt another player, but there's nothing wrong at playing the body, and especially playing it on a bad shoulder.
Now we're going to have some penalties here as Dvorak and Fogelin. Zephyr sticks up, and they both go to the penalty box. Lee Fogelin, by the way, the most experienced of all the players involved in this series. This is his 97th Stanley Cup playoff game tonight.
Well, when you look at the Edmonton Oilers, of course, with Fogelin with that much experience, and all the Edmonton Oilers with Stanley Cup experience over the course of the last couple of years, the Philadelphia Flyers, a different story. Only Brian Propp has ever been to the Stanley Cup Finals, and that was in his rookie season. So the Philadelphia Flyers, not much experience in that department for most of their players, even though the Flyers have had a very successful past decade.
Minor penalties. High sticking to Dvorak, cross-checking to Fogelin. 17:58 the time. Each team a man short again. Edmonton leading 2-1 as Krushelnyski cleared it out. This is Thomas Eriksson, number 27, to Tim Kerr. He tries to flip it in, and racing back to get it is Don Jackson. Over to Lowe. Back to Jackson for Edmonton. Now to Lowe again. And it's cleared into the center ice area and picked up by Messier. Messier fires that puck in. Mark Howe is back to get it. And Howe headmanning it to Poulin. Now to Howe. Howe leaving it for Kerr. Gary Curry checks him, and here comes Gretzky. Gretzky. Jack Curry picks it up. Tried to center, but Poulin was there to intercept. And then Charlie Huddy pulls down Kerr, and we'll get another penalty here against Huddy of Edmonton.
Only 1 minute and 7 seconds remaining in this second period, and Charlie Huddy will be on his way to the penalty box. The Edmonton Oilers, just previous to Huddy being penalized, had really a pretty good chance to score. At least it had potential, but a good defensive play by the Philadelphia Flyers. And let's take a look at this play here. Wayne Gretzky having that puck taken away from him by number 27 for the Flyers, Thomas Eriksson, and then you could see in the middle of your screen right there, Charlie Huddy dumping big Tim Kerr right at the blue line. So Huddy goes to the penalty box for tripping. Charlie Huddy, 2 minutes for tripping, 18:53 is the time.
And it's going to give Philadelphia a 4-against-3 power play. The Flyers are 1 man short. Edmonton will be 2. 1 minute and 7 seconds remaining here in period number 2. Tim Kerr and Sinisalo will be the forwards for the Flyers. Crossman and Howe, the point men. Messier will be the only Edmonton forward. Coffey and Lowe on defense. Kerr gets the draw to Howe. Over to Crossman. Now to Mark Howe. To Crossman. We're in the final minute of the second period. To Howe again. To Crossman. Shooting. That deflects just wide. Sinisalo racing over, but Coffey beat him to it and clears it out of there. Doug Crossman going back again. Crossman to Sinisalo. Into Mark Howe. He's checked, and Eric, or at least Curry, clears it away. And the Flyers have to go back with Crossman. 27 seconds left in the period. Crossman to Sinisalo. Into the zone. Lowe is there to clear it. Howe knocked it down. Centered. Oh, it hopped over Sinisalo's stick. Sinisalo to Crossman. A drive. 6 saves pure. And another penalty coming up here to Edmonton. A cross-checking call this is going to be. And it's going to mean this penalty will have to be delayed because the Oilers are already 2 men short. Or hold on, is the penalty against Kerr?
Well,
I think it is.
Yeah, the penalty is going to number 12, Tim Kerr. Let's watch and see whether or not we can see where Kerr gets that cross-checking penalty. Right there, I guess, as he pushes down Kevin Lowe, but I don't know how hard Kerr pushed Lowe down. Nevertheless, Tim Kerr right in his usual position, trying to screen goaltender Grant Fuhr. Goes to the penalty box. 2 minutes for cross-checking is the call. 19:51 is the time.
So each team will be 2 men short here. Edmonton leading 2-1. Meanwhile, the Oiler player Fogelin will be back on with Dvorak in 7 seconds time. And then each team will be just 1 man short. Ready for a face-off at the Edmonton blue line. Mark Messier against Ron Sutter. Kevin Lowe coming up with the puck for Edmonton. Fires it down the ice. A bouncer. That gave Lindbergh problems. And there's the buzzer. to end the period. Shots on goal in the second period. Edmonton 13, Philadelphia 8 in the game. 21 for the Oilers, 14 for Philadelphia. Coming up in our intermission, Gary Curry, number 17 of the Oilers, and the man who scored 18 goals this year in Stanley Cup play for Edmonton. After 2 periods of play, the score: the Edmonton Oilers 2, the Philadelphia Flyers 1. Al Trotwick at our second intermission right after this pause.
Norelco Rototrack, the shaving machine that challenges the world. Every blade, every electric in closeness.
Charlie Huddy with 53 seconds left in his. We've had a lot of this tonight, Gary, with 4 against 4.
Well, as I had kind of gotten surprised by, Dan, the fact that the Philadelphia Flyers really on the 4-on-4 situations have, I think, other than that one goal that the Edmonton Oilers were able to score, they've actually outplayed Edmonton on the 4-on-4 chances.
Here we go with the Oilers immediately on the attack, and Anderson's backhander is turned aside. Now to Borik, able to clear the zone, and Philadelphia's Dave Pullen giving it back to Dvorak. He tried to center, but Messier takes over for Edmonton. To Anderson. And Glenn Anderson breaks out. Giving it to Messier. Messier trying to squeeze through the defense. Couldn't quite do it. And Brad Marsh takes over for Philadelphia. To Dvorak. He headmans it to Dave Pullen. Pullen clearing in. Dvorak. Now centered. Drop was open, but the pass was behind him. Gary Curry controlling for the Oilers. Here he comes with Gretzky. And Curry's shot goes off Marsh's stick up into the crowd.
Well, one thing, when Gary Curry is out there and he is going down that right wing side against Brad Marsh, I would think that maybe Curry would test Brad Marsh a little bit more than he's done. Curry has tended to shoot from a fair distance out. And I think that maybe Curry could beat Brad Marsh wide if he really turned on those good jets that he does possess. Brad Marsh, though, if he takes you into the boards, he'll make you hurt because he's a big man that can use those big husky shoulders of his and really lay them into you if he gets a chance to catch you.
I talked here in Philadelphia about Marsh's poor skating. Bobby Clark says the only thing bigger than Brad Marsh's feet is his heart, and that explains Brad Marsh to a T.
No question, he really makes up for that little bit of slowness that he does have on foot.
Here's Curry holding it in for Edmonton. Over to Coffey. Crossman intercepting that. Crossman now able to clear one. Knocked down by Edmonton. Huddy behind the net for Gretzky. Back to Charlie Huddy. Now broken up, and Craven raced after a loose puck, but Muir will get to it first. He winds it around to Coffey. Coffey is checked, but Muir is there to cover up again and leaves it for Paul Coffey. Little outlet pass to Huddy. He dumps it in. Lindbergh leaving it there, then decided to clear it. Tikkanen dropping it to Curry. Curry over to Coffey. Into Tikkanen. Now to Gretzky. Mark Howe tying him up. Here's Gary Curry. To Coffey. Edmonton on a power play. Craven breaks it up. Held in. Now Kerr is back on. Here's Gretzky centering. Crossman broke it up. Gretzky drops it back, but it comes outside the line. The teams are now back at full strength. Edmonton clearing in, but Crossman intercepts to Sinisalo. Broken up at center ice, and Sinisalo will try again for Philadelphia. Ilka Sinisalo into Peter Zezel. He's checked. Gretzky gets it for the Oilers. Here he and Curry come. A 2-on-2 Edmonton break. But Gretzky will just jump it in and head to the bench on a line change. And Dvorak has it for Philadelphia. Ahead to Zezel. Zezel upended on the play. Back comes Lee Fogelin. Trying to clear one in. Willie Lindstrom is there. To Kevin McClelland in the corner. Philadelphia's Erickson now controlling the puck. Winding it around. And it comes to center ice where Fogelin controls for the Oilers. Fogelin dumping it in, and it's called an offside at the Philadelphia blue line. Coast-to-coast coverage of the Stanley Cup Final is only on USA Sports. another sellout crowd here at the Spectrum, 17,191 as the Oilers shoot it in. Dvorak is back to get it for Philadelphia. He's checked now. Hunter centering one, but Erickson is there to intercept. And back he comes. Too well checked as he got to center. Hunter trying to give it to McClellan. And now the Flyers just clear it back to center. The checking is extremely close as this third period begins. Edmonton stealing one. Here's Lindstrom shooting one wide. And it bounces all the way to the Edmonton end.
Well, I've been a little surprised at the way that in this third period, the Edmonton Oilers have come out and done a fair amount of dumping and chasing. They're just firing that puck in the Philadelphia corners and then hustling in after it.
They shoot it in again. Brad Marsh trying to clear it. Gets some help on the play from Todd Bergen. Now Marsh has to go back the other way. And Marsh moves away from Messier and trying to set up Bergen. Huddy intercepting that. Here's Anderson for Edmonton. Checked by Dave Poulin. Poulin closely checked, but feeding one ahead for Craven. Quick shot and a stick save by Fuhr. The Flyers center. Fuhr is there again to grab it and hold it.
Craven really let go with a good hard wrist shot. Grant Fuhr just nabbed that one very quickly. Craven, who has shown Philadelphia fans a lot of skills, such as this one, he let go with that puck, and really Grant Fuhr had to come up with a pretty quick save. You can see that puck doing an awful lot of bouncing out there, and Grant Fuhr wasn't going to take any chances. He was just going to jump on it and take the face-off deep in the Oilers' end zone.
Flyers have gone tonight more with 6 defensemen than I've seen them in recent games. Dvorak and Erickson have played quite a bit.
You think that's a signal, Dan, that maybe Mike Keenan feels that this is going to be a long series, and the fact that going with 4 defensemen may be fine right now at the early part, but in the long run, you've got to go with at least 5 or 6 defensemen, and some teams have even in the past dressed that 7th defenseman, realizing how important the strength of your defensemen are in the course of a long series.
Here's Poulin against Messier. Flyers get it, and a quick shot there. Turned aside as it was let go by Craven. Puck now back into the Flyers zone. Krushelnyski digging in. Prop has him tied up. Dave Poulin comes up with the puck. And Poulin flips it to center ice. Huddy knocking it down. Messier shoots it right back in. Here's Erickson for Philadelphia. Ahead to Craven. Number 32, Craven. Winds up, last one off the glass. Comes to Erickson at the point. Shooting, he's wide by 2 or 3 feet. And now the Oilers clear it. But Craven hustles back to get it for Philadelphia. Murray Craven to Ron Sutter. Sutter flips it in. Fuhr will clear it. And the Oilers try and shoot it back out. Sutter held it in. Now Coffey. Quick outlet pass for Gretzky. Gretzky poking it to the Oiler line, and Dvorak gives it to Crossman. Crossman trying to clear it in. Bouncing puck. There's Pocket pulled down by Fogelin on the play. Van Collar, they thought a penalty should have been called there. Centering pass. Pocket trying to center one. In comes Fogelin. Now Gretzky getting it loose. Centered it to Yari Curry. And the Oilers carry out. Curry dropping it to Tikkanen. Here's the rookie Tikkanen taken out by Crossman. And Howe gets the puck. Mark Howe firing it up the middle. It went off Gretzky. Fuhr plays it and sets it up for Kevin Lowe. Over onto the board. Here's Tikkanen with a pass to Huddy. Huddy crosses center and just jumps it in. The Flyers, who trail 2-1, come right back out. Howe to Peter Zezel. Fuhr trying to fire it out to Lindstrom, does. And Lindstrom clears to McClellan. Kevin McClellan getting it to Paul Coffey. Coffey centered, and Lindstrom was checked before he could get a stick on it. And then it's shot to center ice. Here's Coffey trying to clear it in. Marsh breaks that up and gives it to Joe Patterson. He's checked, but Hospodar for Philadelphia into Zezel. And it's cleared back out. Then Hospodar fell down, and here's a break for Hunter. Hunter against Marsh, a 2-on-1, now a 3-on-1. McClellan stopped by Lindbergh. From the slot, Kevin McClellan, robbed by Pelle Lindbergh. As the Flyers stops the 3-on-1 Edmonton break. It's the place to stay for live Stanley Cup coverage. USA.
Just don't wind up on the stat sheet, but the wives of the Philadelphia Flyers have their own room where they can sit and sweat it out here in the Stanley Cup final. Inside, just a couple watching the game here tonight, and they're not feeling too good about the scoreboard right now.
Here's Dvorak for Philadelphia, giving one to Brian Propp. Messier breaks that up, but now Philadelphia try and break up. Messier is back for the Oilers, over to Kevin Lowe. Lowe dumping it in. Anderson knocked off the puck by Dvorak. Anderson gets it again, and as he flipped it up into the crowd.
Dan, I had mentioned the fact that the Edmonton Oilers were doing a lot of dumping and chasing. That's a good reading of Mike Keenan and Philadelphia Flyers' game plan, because they are a close-checking hockey club that have bottled up the Edmonton Oilers in game number 1 anyway, at the blue line. And right now in this third period, when the Oilers have the lead, they're very comfortable at not trying to carry that puck in over the blue. And with the Philadelphia Flyers kind of lined up at it, they're just dumping the puck in the corner and then trying to beat them to the puck. And they've got some good speed in order to try and do that.
Bergen, Carson, and Craven, the Flyer line. Edmonton with Messier, Anderson, and Krushelnyski. Here's Todd Bergen for the Flyers. Fires it in. You're clearing it. Now it comes to Krushelnyski, and here come the Oilers right back the other way. Anderson getting it ahead to Messier. Messier trying to go around Dvorak. Centered one. That's intercepted and cleared out by Craven. Here's Lowe shooting it in. Going back is Dvorak. And the Flyers clear one to Derek Smith. Picked up in the center ice area. Now here's Gretzky. Gretzky shoots one. Lindbergh took that in the midsection and then held it. For our local station and systems, we'll pause now. You're watching Oilers 2, Philadelphia 1. 11:57 remaining here in the third period. And neither team giving an inch or so on either end of the rink at this point. Very tight checking, tenacious play by both the Oilers and the Flyers. The puck shot down the ice. Huddy is back together. Now the Oilers, led by Huddy, trying to work it out. Got it near the line. Tikkanen and checked, and here's Ron Sutter holding it in, and it bounces up into the crowd.
Well, this young player, Asa Tikkanen, just continues to get the ice time out there. And, Dan, he hasn't looked out of place the least bit out there tonight. I've watched him in key situations, especially along that left wing board side in his own end zone. And this man knows what to do. He made sure a couple of times he sacrificed, took the check in order to make sure that puck got out of their end zone and just up in the neutral ice out of danger. So it looks like he's got a lot of smarts out there, and maybe another good find of the director of player personnel for the Edmonton Oilers, Barry Fraser. Super scout, they call Barry Fraser.
Stocky guy is Tikkanen. Here's a puck cleared quickly out by the Oilers. I was mentioning Tikkanen being a sturdily built young man. 5'11", 185 pounds. And as Mike Liut said prior to the game, all the Oilers really need is another goal scorer.
Really? Well, a man that we haven't talked a great deal about, and probably we should have. I'm guilty of that, Dan, because this man, Mark Howe, has really played extremely well in playoffs. He's been comparative from the Philadelphia standpoint as to what Paul Coffey has done for the Edmonton Oilers. He has really controlled the play. He's a fine rushing defenseman, and we talk about all the young players for the Philadelphia Flyers. Mark Howe adds the stability and experience back in that blue line. Excellent wrist shot and great speed.
He's controlled most of the games for the Flyers through the playoffs that I've seen. Does it rather unspectacularly, but very steadily. Here's Ron Sutter and Messier on a face-off. And now it's Huddy coming up with the puck. Huddy with a lead pass to Tikkanen. That's called back on a two-line offside. And the face-off will come to inside the Edmonton blue line. Interesting matchup here. We notice Sutter, who's been used mainly against Gretzky, is now on the ice against Messier.
Well, and Tikkanen continues to stay out on the ice. Tikkanen, pretty confusing, Dan. It may get that way anyway. The way that he plays, so much like Jari Kurri and Wayne Gretzky. There he was, way up at the Philadelphia Flyers blue line looking for one of those sneak plays, the one that you see Yari Curry and especially Wayne Gretzky utilize so often.
Here's Howe trying to set up pocket. Hoppy cleared it out, shot back in by Crossman, and it's offside at the Edmonton blue line. Neither of these teams show much offensive power at this point. They're sticking to their defensive knitting.
Well, they are really watching each other closely out there, and Rick Tocchet is no exception. Talking about some of the young players, Derek Smith, Rick Tocchet, and Peter Zezel, all from the Toronto area, grew up practically in the same neighborhood, and the three players knew each other before coming to the Philadelphia Flyers, and all three made the hockey club this year, and all three have done a pretty darn good job at getting this Philadelphia Flyers and giving them some added depth that they perhaps didn't have before. Well, they've got it now.
Puck shot in. Flyers. Kerr knocked down by Lindstrom on the far side. Now McClellan getting his stick up with one of the Flyers.
We can only guess that it might be Hospodar, is it? Just the way that he went at it.
Number 17, Hospodar.
I think Kevin McClellan feels that he owes Hospodar one.
The score, Edmonton 2, Philadelphia 1, 11 minutes.
Well, there's a very cute Philadelphia Flyer fan. Not Halloween, but
Great image of Al Trudwick.
I was ready for him to pick up a microphone and do one of his routines in the stands with the fans, but I guess that wasn't Al Trudwick. Talking about downstairs where Al Trudwick is, apparently Dr. Randy Gregg, who is not on the bench, is now in a sweatsuit and has got a bandaged knee. And so Randy Gregg not performing any longer in this game tonight, and whether or not he will be able to continue in this series, we'll have to wait and see.
Philadelphia's Thomas Erickson to Brian Propp as Propp crosses center. Shooting one in. Back to get it is Lowe. Put it on the board. Propp knocking it back to the net. Patterson getting it to Propp. Got it right through the goal crease, and Muir got a piece of that. And then kicked it away. Meanwhile, play had been called as the Edmonton goal was knocked loose once more.
I don't know whether maybe those nets were Dan fixed today, but they definitely have not come off anywhere close to as many times as they did in game number one, so maybe some stronger magnets were installed with the nets.
There's one of those Flyer rookies that Gary talked about, Peter Zezel, second-round draft choice in '83. That same year, they drafted Pocket in the 6th round in '83. And the other player, Derek Smith, the 3rd round in '83. And they're all on this Philadelphia club, and all are playing very prominent roles. Edmonton from the faceoff, trying to clear it. Held in, and Erickson shot caught by Pure. And he held on to it.
Pure getting down in that crouch position so that he would have a better sight line on that puck coming from the point. Let's watch right from the faceoff. That puck tried to be cleared by the Oilers, not successful, and here comes the shot, and that shot I think was deflected before it ended up getting to Fuhr. But Fuhr very alert on the shot and gloved it fairly easily.
10:37 left in regulation time. It is 2-1 in favor of Edmonton. Here's Messier on a face-off with Kim Kerr. The linesman is not happy with the way a couple of players were lined up, and Campanello warns a couple of the others. Well, they're going to toss both Messier and Kerr out of there now.
Well, everybody's going to get their chance here to take this face-off. They've pulled him in the face-off spot now.
And stepping in for Edmonton is Krushelnyski. Philadelphia get it. Kerr's shot wide. Here's Dvorak shooting one. That's blocked in front of the net. And then cleared away by the Oilers' Huddy. Erickson feeding Kerr. Kerr can't get by Coffey. Now the Flyers dump it in, but Charlie Huddy is back to get it for Edmonton. And Huddy flipping it off the board. And Thomas Erickson goes back again for Philadelphia. Seems strange, Gary, to see these Oilers sticking to their defensive plan and protecting a 2-1 lead.
Well, they really are doing it, and they're doing it well, Dan. They're making sure those pucks get cleared in their own end zone, and their forwards are doing a good job along the boards.
Now Edmonton on offense is Anderson trying to center one. Trying to get it to Gretzky. Now there's Gretzky from the side of the net. A quick swipe wide. And Crossman has it for Philadelphia. Trying to set up Ron Sutter. Now Fogelman intercepting that. Shoots it back in. Comes near the crease. Gretzky was cruising in there. Lindbergh saw that and took no chance as he just throws the puck.
Well, Wayne Gretzky, a heck of a baseball player as well, Dan, and he showed us some of his baseball talent here. Watch how Gretzky just picks this puck right out of the air and swats it. He made sure, I think that puck was just a little bit below shoulder level before he did take that whack at it, and it really caught Lindbergh by surprise. Lindbergh had to move very quickly on it. The report on Randy Gregg, by the way, is that he has a hyperextended left knee, but he does expect to play Saturday. He may have diagnosed himself.
He has the qualifications, this Randy Gregg. He's a full medical doctor, in case you hadn't heard us say that before. Speaking of baseball, Wayne Gretzky was at the Phillies game over at Veterans Stadium last night, which is right across the street from the Spectrum.
If there's a day off in a city in the NHL that has a baseball team at this time of year, you'll find Wayne Gretzky there because he just really loves the sport of baseball. In fact, had an opportunity to sign with a minor league team, we were told. He was that good of a ball player, but of course, I think he's a much better hockey player than he was a ball player.
Here's Mark Howe for Philadelphia, getting it in. Lowe is there to clear it. Now it comes to center, and Sutter working it to Smith. Smith to pocket into Smith. Broken up by Lowe. And Lowe feeds Gary Curry, but it bounced over his stick. Crossman now trying to clear it, and it's up over the glass and out of play again, and we're down to 9:02 left in the third period. For our local systems, we'll pause here. It's the Stanley Cup Championship on USA. It's still the Edmonton Oilers 2, the Philadelphia Flyers 1. 9:02 left in the third period. The Flyers playing catch-up hockey here in this third period. Now here's Lindstrom moving in. He fanned on his shot. Krushelnyski trying to get the puck loose. Comes in front. Put it right through the goal crease. McClellan couldn't get to it. And Mars cleared it for Philadelphia. Now Zezel moving in for Philadelphia. Too closely checked. And right back from Edmonton. Lindstrom to Krushelnyski. Centered one. Lindbergh got a stick on that to deflect it away. And Zezel feeds Brad Marsh, number 8. Marsh jumping it in. Zezel into the corner, but Huddy beats him to it. And Huddy sends McClellan out of his own zone. And Kevin McClellan just crosses center and shoots it in. This is Hospodar back for the Flyers. Cleared one, knocked down by Messier. Messier centered off Hunter's stick. And now Kerr for Philadelphia. Ahead to Craven, to Todd Bergen, who dumps it in. Ewer leaving it for Fogelman. The Oilers clear it right back out of there. And Erickson has to hustle back. Messier tried to get it to Hunter, but here's Dvorak. Right back the other way. To Lindsey Carson. His shot blocked. To Kerr. And then Kerr was knocked down and shot it wide. And the Edmonton goal then came loose again. But a close chance there for Tim Kerr.
Well, I think once again that it was Kevin Lowe that ends up taking Grand Cure right into the net, and the net along, well, with it, goes off of its post. But a close opportunity here for the Philadelphia Flyers. A number of times in the last few shifts, Dan, the Edmonton Oilers have just been throwing that puck in the vicinity of Kelly Lindbergh, hoping that one of their forwards is going to be able to break away. But continued good coverage by the Philadelphia Flyers, and players like Craven, Sinisalo in particular, that last shift really did an excellent job of taking their man all the way back to post. And believe me, that is sheer discipline on the part of the players, and obviously the instructions by Coach Mike Keenan.
Here's Tim Kerr on a face-off against Messier. It's deep in the Edmonton zone. And on the face-off, Messier gets the draw. Messier has played a great deal in this period. Not for defensive purposes. And now the Oilers' Crucial Niski clearing it all the way down the ice. This will be icing as Dvorak goes back to play the puck. I was talking about Messier and the amount of hockey he's played here in the third period. For defensive purposes, face-off purposes. Gary, I don't know if there is any player in the league who combines the element of speed and strength any more than Messier.
Couldn't agree with you more, Dan. He is really strong on the puck. He is smart when it comes to moving that puck in the right places. He's good defensively. He's extremely good offensively. And he'll see a lot of ice time in the remaining 7.5 minutes here.
Here is Propp going back to get it for Philadelphia. Shooting one back into the Edmonton zone. It went off low, so there'll be no icing. Kevin Lowe, number 4. Firing it to Crucial Niski. Mike Crucial Niski flips it in. Digging in is Anderson for Edmonton. Knocked it into the corner, and Dave Poulin is there. He clears one, and Dvorak gives it to Propp. Propp for Philadelphia. Quick wrist shot. You're a stick save there, and here comes Hunter right back the other way for Edmonton. Drop pass for Gretzky, but Erickson was there to clear it, and here's Kerr. His pass intercepted by Curry, and now Gretzky feeds Jerry Curry. Curry to Hunter. Off his stick, and Lindbergh cleared it away. Curry then knocked down by Erickson in the corner, and we'll get a stoppage with 6:31 remaining. Live Stanley Cup Championship coverage is post 31 remaining in the third period. And a reminder, stay with us at the conclusion of this game for our naming of the mobile player of the game. And by the way, as Mark Howe clears the puck out to Derek Smith in the Flyers attack, we'll remind you that the program Dragnet, normally seen at 10:30 Eastern Time, will not be seen this evening because of the length of this Stanley Cup playoff game. There's Crossman for Philadelphia. Moves in, fanned on his shot. Crossman then taken out of the play. The Oilers quickly cleared, and here's Curry. Headmanning it for Gretzky. Gretzky down with Peekinen and Curry, trying to get it to Curry, but it went off Howe's skate. And now Ron Sutter back for Philadelphia. And back checking was Gary Curry to break up a dangerous play. Here comes Gretzky. Centered to Curry, couldn't get a stick on that pass, and Crossman has it for the Flyers. They head to Rick Pocket. Pocket poke check, and a good play by Kevin Lowe, and here's McClelland for Edmonton. McClelland to Lindstrom, shoots up too high and up into the crowd. And on the last 2 or 3 Flyer rushes, we've seen more examples of Curry and Lowe and the outstanding defense that these Oilers are playing.
You think that the Edmonton Oilers want to show the Philadelphia Flyers with the fact that they can play good, strong defensive hockey as well? And I don't know if that would surprise Mike Keane. He has done a pretty good job pre-scouting this team and has seen them over the course of the years, just even watching them on television, and the fact that, yes, the Edmonton Oilers can play good defensive hockey. Kelly Lindbergh has been outstanding in tonight's game. He has really kept this game from maybe being a 3 or 4-1 game right now in favor of the Oilers. He has played extremely well. The Oilers just backing up. They are playing sound defensive hockey. I'm surprised at the way that they have even thrown the puck down for icings in their own end zone just to slow the game down and to think defense first. That's really uncharacteristic of the Edmonton Oilers in most situations.
They've outshot Philadelphia 27-18. The Flyers, with just 18 shots on goal in Game 1, they had over 40, so that shows you the difference. Here's Sinisalo. Getting one to Hospodar at center, who dumps it in. Vogelin rushed in the play by Craven. They fall down. Puck comes loose, and here's Sinisalo. Trying to center, Zezel. Tied up by Lowe. This is very tight checking hockey, as we've told you, and here you see it. Here the Flyers centering one, but McClelland was there for Edmonton. And now the Oilers come to center with Crucial Niski. To Lindstrom, shoots off the goal post. Lindstrom on the short side hits the post. Here's Marsh with a clearing pass, and that will be called back on a 2-line offside. We're down to 4:40 left in regulation time. 2-1 Edmonton. Will be
The Edmonton Oilers have been outstanding tonight. Willie Lindstrom has a goal. Wayne Gretzky has the other. Grant Fuhr's played well. Charlie Huddy has also played well for Edmonton. And for Philadelphia, Pelle Lindbergh, in spite of the fact that he's losing, has been very, very good in net for Philadelphia. One of those players will be with us at the end of the game to be named the mobile player of the game. Back to Dan again.
And to the live action here in Philadelphia as the Flyers jump it in. Coffey is back for Edmonton. Trying to clear one, held in. Here's Kerr, a quick shot wide. Coffey then cleared the rebound as the Oilers almost got caught there. Here's Erickson back for Philadelphia. Clearing it to Propp into Poulin. Shoots. Up off the stick of Coffey and into the crowd, and we're down to 4:14 left in regulation time.
Well, at this point in time, in this close of a game, Dan, it really becomes a game of a bad bounce or one bad mistake, and things can turn very quickly. Right now, the Flyers, with that faceoff in Edmonton's end zone, have not been too successful at breaking through the Oiler defense, but then again, all it would take is one good shift, and this game could be soon tied up.
Philadelphia, losers of only 4 games all season on home ice and just 1 in the playoffs, trailing here 2-1. Edmonton clearing it to center. Marsh has it stolen, and here's a chance for Glenn Anderson. But Marsh recovered and broke it up, and then Lindbergh was able to cover up. And then Lindbergh reacted to Glenn Anderson with the way he tried to poke at the puck.
Lindbergh had that puck underneath of his glove and didn't take too kindly to the fact that Glenn Anderson really tried to push that puck right in the net and his glove with it. But Lindbergh held his cool, realizing right now that it's much more important that these Philadelphia Flyers play even up and can see whether or not they can tie this hockey game up.
3 minutes and 59 seconds left in the third period. 2-1 Edmonton leading. Edmonton scored first in this game back in the first period, getting a goal from Gretzky. Jim Kerr tied it in the second, but then Willie Lindstrom gave Edmonton the lead again at 16:08 of the second period. Here's Anderson and Howe battling. Now Messier behind the net, centered it. Lindbergh had to come out and clear it, but still loose, and now Howe cleared it away for Philadelphia. To Lindsey Carson, to Dave Poulin. Anderson checked him, and right back comes Paul Coffey. Coffey couldn't get around Howe, now gets a quick shot away, and a stick save by Lindbergh. Here's Doug Crossman for the Flyers. Feeding one ahead to Lindsey Carson. Into the corner for Sutter, but Huddy is there. And Coffey battles Carson for the puck. Now it comes to Gretzky. And Gretzky feeds Curry on right wing. He flips it ahead to center, but it went up over the boards at the Edmonton bench, hit someone, and bounced back onto the playing surface, and that stops play.
You think Glenn Sather doesn't have a lot of confidence in young Esa Tikkanen? He's got him out there in the last 3 minutes of the hockey game. You can see the cut on Mark Howe's left cheek. But he is not worrying about that cut. He's just strictly staying on the ice right now with a face-off in Edmonton's end zone and hoping that Ron Sutter might be able to win this draw and send that puck back to him.
3:12 remaining. They're standing here at the Spectrum to spur on these Flyers. By the way, the Flyers have not lost to Edmonton in their last 9 meetings. 8 wins, no losses, and 1 tie in the last meetings between these teams. That's how dominant Philadelphia has been. Great fans here in Philadelphia, Gary.
They really are, Dan, and they have been always here for all of their sporting teams in town. And for these Flyers, well, they've loved them right back from the Broad Street Bullies days, and they had a taste of the Stanley Cup twice there. They would like Lord Stanley back in this city again.
The Flyers, another statistic, are 4-0 lifetime against Edmonton in the playoffs. So Edmonton has never won a playoff game against this Philadelphia team. Here's Howe going back to get it. Sliding it to center. Fogelin knocks that down, and here is Curry for Edmonton. It's a little play. Got it to Kevin Lowe. Lowe then shot it to center. Gretzky had it for the moment, and here is Crossman for Philadelphia. Ahead to Sutter. He slides it in. Digging in after it, Derek Smith can't center. Now Pocket gets it free. Rick Pocket shot wide. Here's Crossman trying to flip it behind the net. Lowe knocked it down. Now Sutter gets it in front. Oh, and Smith was open but fanned on it, and then Curry took it away from him. Curry clearing it away. And Crossman goes back to give it to Derek Smith. Gary Curry there defensively again for Edmonton.
What a job he has done in this third period. Just one time after another, he has saved potential Philadelphia scoring opportunities. Good defensive player.
Dvorak for Philadelphia to Zezel. He tried to get away a quick pass to Sinicello. That's blocked. Now Todd Bergen shoots it in. Coffey shoots it right back up. And the Flyers with less than 2 minutes to play in regulation time. Shoot it in. Huddy clearing it to Hunter. Now McClellan battles Bergen for the puck. Got it outside the line. And the Flyers push it back in offside. And we're down to 1:45 left in the third period.
Well, the Oilers right now, the Oilers defense just throwing that puck around the boards and expecting their wingers to get that puck out of the danger zone and up into the neutral ice area. 1:45 remaining, and the Philadelphia Flyers will no doubt be thinking of pulling Pelle Lindbergh when it gets down somewhere to the next 20 to 45 seconds. So this game, folks, is a long ways from being over yet. 2-1 hockey game in favor of the Oilers, and lots can happen yet.
Here's Poulin for Philadelphia. Taken out by McClelland and Coffey. Poulin continues to battle. And then the puck winds up underneath Paul Coffey. A very different game tonight than game one, Gary. This has been a grinding type game from start to finish.
It really has been. I think the biggest difference is that Edmonton has really matched and really outmatched the Philadelphia Flyers with speed, which is something that they really did not do at all in game number one. And as we had stated just before the game, Glenn Sader has told his team in yesterday's practice the fact that they have to do what they do best, and that is skate and move the puck and shoot. They have not scored like I think that they are capable of scoring, but that has a lot to do with the play of Pelle Lindbergh in tonight's game.
Here's Kerr against Messier. The Oilers win the faceoff and control the puck. Coffey around to Krushelnyski. Crossman pinched in to hold it. Comes to Prop. He can't center. Now Ron Sutter gets it to Prop. Ryan Prop, and now the goal is knocked loose. And I think the fans here in Philadelphia feel the Oilers did that intentionally, did they?
Oh, you really want to put me on the spot, don't you?
Why not?
Well, I will wait and pass judgment later, Dan. Right now, Ron Sutter, you're going to watch him. Well, let's watch and see whether or not the Oilers were guilty here. Paul Coffey shoving that net off the post. I don't think there was a Flyer in sight.
Taking a heck of a chance to do that, aren't you?
Well, you know, that's not all that different than back in the Washington-New York Islanders series when Paul Boudelier did about exactly the same thing. And that resulted in a Bobby Carpenter penalty shot on Sutter.
I think what it started at is Sutter had pushed the net out forward, and Coffey pushed it back, and I think that's what flipped Sutter and cut him around the mouth.
Gary Fraser was right there, so on the goal line, he had a good look at it, so we'll go with his judgment. He feels that Edmonton obviously not guilty of that.
Fraser has not called a penalty here in the third period. He's going to try and let these teams settle this one themselves.
And Dan, it was pretty obvious, wasn't it, early in this third period when there was about 3 possible infractions on one shift, and Gary Fraser just let them go, and he really has at least been consistent in this game and let these two teams play hockey.
1:18 to play. 2-1 Edmonton leading. Ron Sutter against Messier in the Edmonton zone. On the face-off, Messier again gets the draw. Poking it to Kevin Lowe, and Lowe flips it to center with Howe back to get it. Howe to Crossman. Now stolen by the Oilers. Anderson getting it into the Flyers zone, but here's Ron Sutter to Crossman to Prop. We're in the final minute of regulation time. Prop shot it in. Kevin Lowe back to get it, and there goes Lindbergh to the bench. 6 attackers for Philadelphia. pulling back to stop it. Now, Messier's shot at the open net, but Howe is there to dub Crossman. Now flipping it ahead, and it's shot in by Pula. Racing in his Sutter. Now Prop comes in. He can't get it, and Edmonton pick up the puck, and here is Hunter with only Crossman back. Hunter shoots at the open net, he scores! And with 27 seconds left, Hunter gives Edmonton a 3-1 lead.
Well, Dave Hunter really played that very, very well. He just held on to possession of that puck instead of shooting it, and it may have been deflected here by Crossman. Instead, he just held on to it. He walked around Crossman, then he was able to get a good line on that empty net and shot it right in the middle. So watch one more time. Here's where Hunter could have shot. Instead, he elects to go over to his forehand side. He could get a much better wrist shot away, a much more accurate wrist shot away, and it worked.
Only Dave Hunter's second goal of the playoffs, but it gives the Oilers a 3-1 lead, and it looks like this series will be switching to Edmonton, tied at 1 apiece for games 3, 4, and 5. The next 3 will be played in Edmonton. The scoring play, Hunter from Anderson, 19:33 the time.
Hunter's a person that has been utilized an awful lot in this third period as well by Coach Glenn Sather, and that is because he is a real defensive specialist. He's done an excellent job of protecting this lead and really has just iced the cake now.
Philadelphia with just 22 seconds left. Try and shoot it in and do. And back to pick it up is Toppy for Edmonton. To Mike Krushelnyski. He jumps it in. Lindbergh handles the long shot, clearing it off to the corner. Philadelphia with Hospodar trying to clear it out. Held in by Lindstrom. Lindstrom dropping it back. Krushelnyski too closely checked. Marsh gets the puck. The game is over. And the 1985 Stanley Cup Final is tied at 1 game apiece. The Oilers 3, Philadelphia 1. Shots on goal in the third period tonight. Edmonton 8, Philadelphia 4. In the game, the Oilers 30, the Flyers 18. A 3-1 Edmonton victory. The series is tied at 1 game apiece. Stay with us for our mobile player of the game. That's coming up next here on USA. Philadelphia 1. We'll return with our player of the game for mobile right after this.